It's reading between the lines.
Mixer, Facebook, come on, Twitch.
Twitch
There
never
we
shows
go.
up,
Oh.
but it is there.
What's
Sending
what's
data.
D-Live? Is
D-Live's
that new?
another streaming service. No, it's been there for a while. It's
My
just
brother
not.
might buy a truck.
Nice.
Hell yeah. It's just not the most popular streaming service, but it gets some views.
Oh, okay.
You get some views.
I get some views.
Welcome all the
Hello.
0 people on right now.
Oh, hello.
Have a good day.
How are you all today?
I also found out that number is not ever accurate.
What, really?
Yeah.
What?
So, like, it's, like, not right.
Oh,
So, there might actually be people already in here.
but we just don't know.
Because it doesn't
Oh.
generate. Sometimes it doesn't generate. Not before we were doing. Not our previous discussions where no one was.
Oh, okay.
obviously
But
we're not live.
that number sometimes doesn't pick up like the other platforms, or it won't pick up Twitch, and Twitch is obviously the most one. So like, don't take that number as ever accurate, because like we had one night where we streamed the book club, and like the highest that I saw on there was 11,
Yeah.
and then I went back and I checked our like Streamlabs highlights,
Yeah.
and they said we had 47 people at one time.
What?
God damn.
That's so
So,
cool.
and I don't know if that was just people who weren't talking, but I was like, oh, like that number's not right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's exciting. We had 3 people and now there's 0, but there might be 47.
Hey.
They might all be there.
They might all be there watching us right now in this moment.
Well, that makes me even more happy because we used to we had 12 people watch, but we don't even know. It could have been more than 12.
For
Yeah.
all we know.
But still, I get really excited for when 12 people watch because I'm just like, 12 people want to hear what I have to say.
Troll people? Did they
Hey.
live under a bridge?
Did I say troll people? I meant to say 12 people.
Oh!
Well, okay, literally, this entire week, and even Aiden was like, for some reason, I cannot speak correctly. Like, literally today, like, I was telling Cass, I was like, oh, do you mind if I take a shower and then we'll go to Smith's and get bagels? And she was like, what do you mean in 30 minutes? And I was like, wait,
Oh, yeah,
what do
'cause
you
she
mean?
said 30 minutes.
And I meant to say, I'll just take a quick shower and then we'll go instead of waiting 30 minutes. Or I don't remember what I even said. It's just like, I can't believe that I just don't even know what I say. It just comes out. Also, I learned that I say specifically wrong.
Oh yeah, she
Specifically?
I
says
say-
pacifically, and the thing is I always thought that like, it was just kind of like, it was just, you know, because sometimes she'll mess up her speech, and I don't want to be a dick and be like, call her out every single time, and she says specifically, and it's adorable, you know? So it's like,
Specifically.
yeah, and it's just kind of like, I thought it was just her thing, but she knew that specifically was the way to say it, and then Aiden called her out just a bit ago and was like, pacifically? And then she's like, yeah, and he's like, you're like, is that not how you say it? And he's like, specifically, and you were like, you could like see her worlds like turn.
Well, 'cause here's the thing is, my ex, Devin, would he would call me out sometimes, but he also thought it was adorable, so like, I kind of also was like, he never corrected me. So like, I just kept saying it, and he was like, yeah, I love that, specifically too. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought that like, maybe you can just say it like that and people can just, get away with it. But no. He was also just being way too nice. People need to call me out more.
Yeah.
But I also get frustrated when people call me out because I know how much I say wrong.
Fake fan.
Fake fan.
Fake fan.
Yeah, what a fake fan.
What a fake fan.
I love saying that.
fake fan. When anything happens, like if someone gets something wrong, even about your friends or something, you're like, ugh, fake fan. Fake fan.
That's my favorite. They're
Fake
like,
fan.
oh, what's the name of the person in Star Wars? I was like, fake fan.
You fucking nerd.
Fucking fake fan.
Learn your characters.
Learn
Fake
your
fan.
Fake
characters,
fan.
stupid.
I love hanging out with you guys because I learned so much new lingo that me and my friends never use. Like, we're still in the nifty stage.
Well, that's a really good.
That's a good one.
That's a good.
You want to
nifty.
hear a funny story? And this happened literally last night. Well, okay, so me and Cass were like, it's just going to be us tonight. And I was like, what can we do? And I was like, well, I want to tell jokes to people because I always have the worst jokes. So I was like, I'll make a Tinder.
They're amazing.
And just like literally don't say anything. Just say, want to hear my joke? And send it to them. Because I wanted to see the feedback. It was lame. I was very disappointed. But
They all wanted to see
There
some
was
titties.
someone. They just want to see my tits, but I really wanted to tell my fucking joke, my ham sandwich joke. It's a great one.
She said it in previous ones, so.
You'll
But you have
look
to
back.
tell it again.
So a ham sandwich walks into a bar, right? He goes up to the bartender and he's like, "Can I get a beer?" The bartender looks at him and he's like, "We don't serve food here." But like I literally typed it
Makes me
out.
sick every time.
I
Your
literally
stomach just like royals.
And I literally like copied. I like had it written out, and I just pasted it to every single person. It was fun. It was
great.
good. They had some good reactions.
Yeah,
Some like
yeah.
it was good. I asked people, I was like, "How do you rate that joke?" I got a lot of 8s, which I was like, "You're a liar. I'm never gonna beat you in real life."
My favorite thing is that one of the people
Oh, yeah.
actually said when he like first rated it, he was like, "You know what? I give that an 8 out of 10 because it made me think. Really made me think."
Oh, he's
But he's like, but then it
no.
was goofy, so I loved it, and I was like, wow. And then like other people, because like you would exchange jokes then. with
Yeah, I would get people to like. It was weird because I would say, because my bio was, I have jokes. I got good jokes.
I got jokes.
I got jokes. And so people would also then just send me jokes as like an icebreaker,
Yeah.
and so I would send them the ham sandwich joke back. It was
So
good
you're
times.
like, there you go. And then one person was like, oh, rate my joke. And I was like, say it's 8 out of 10 because it really made you think.
And then I did, and then I never talked to him again. But I think it was either that same guy or there was another guy
The
where.
Clayton?
No, Clayton was never responded me back, and
What
I was
about
like,
sexy M&Ms?
we were talking about sexualizing M&Ms. And
Yeah,
I was
what the
like, I getting really into the conversation, and then
Really
he just
interesting.
never responded. I was like, fine. I didn't want to talk about sexy M&Ms anyways.
The conversations that can be had on Twitter are quite interesting. Like,
Oh, they're super.
just like
Right?
what people go to for their first thing. Like,
It's so good.
Yeah.
and I
But-
want to break the stereotype.
Yes.
Everyone asks for nudes. Okay, it's not just
Everyone.
one-sided.
No,
Oh, yeah.
everyone asks for nudes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, easily.
yeah.
Well, especially if it's like a really hot guy, you're like, I want to know what's happening here.
What's
Mhm.
going on? I want to see what I'm getting into.
I've never asked for nudes, but it doesn't surprise me that girls would. But
Yeah.
it reminds me of when you're saying you don't know the lingo. Well, I also don't really well with lingo because I told this one guy, I was like, haha, Lamac. And he's like, what? And then both Nate and Cass, because I screenshot, I like put it on the TV so then we can like play
No,
a
swipe.
drinking game while we do it. And it was on the TV and this guy was like, what? And both Nate and Cass were like, no one says that in real life. We just say that in the group. And I was like,
Fuck.
and I was like, oh, I meant LMAO. I say Lamac with my friends.
Because, like, it literally all started out, and, like, even Bella was telling us
Yeah.
that she was like, no, Stoney and I, for the longest time, tried to figure out what Lamac meant. Because everyone was like, what does that stand for? And it doesn't show up on any sort of, like, you know, like, Urban Dictionary or anything, because it's not an actual thing.
That's not a thing.
It was just something that happened in, like, the Gilmer chat, which was the place that I used to live with, like, some other friends in Sugar House. Somebody
I remember
accidentally
that
said,
place.
yeah, instead of LMAO, it autocorrected to, like, LMAK.
It's LMAK, yeah.
LMAK, so like Lamac.
Mhm.
And then we all, you know, when somebody makes a typo, everybody makes fun of it, you know? And so everyone was like, Lamac, Lamac, Lamac. And then we just kept saying it until eventually we said it in all of our friend group chats. And that, like, our friends all use it, but nobody knows what it means. Because it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything.
I literally, and I sent it to this random guy, and I was like, I'm never talking to you again, because I just, because then I
What
was,
does that mean?
well, because, like, I never knew what it means, but we say it so much that I was like, it has to be a thing. It's
Yeah.
not a thing, but
It's not, but.
it's great. I love.
Look at us up there.
Look how great the quality looks now that we got rid of that green screen.
Right?
Looks
Oh,
Super good.
so good.
We don't look like
Good to see
ghosts.
Yeah.
I made sure to put extra blush on because I still look like ghosts. Like a
No,
ghost.
literally, I did that as well. You can, but then again, when I drink, I get flushed. So I'm like, why do I do this to myself? I don't know. Who knows?
knows?
I don't. That's
I
for
just
sure.
like the orange and purple pop like everywhere.
They
Yeah.
do.
I
My
realized that
hair
my-
looks amazing in this.
It
I'm
really
my hair
such
kind
a
of matches
fan.
this.
I like it because you can see it in the background with like the alien. You kind of match like the aesthetic.
Oh
I
yeah.
do. That's kind of my aesthetic.
Yeah, I like how I didn't really think
Alien.
about it, but I wore this dress and I kind of matched the chair.
Yeah.
We're all very
I like it.
matchy up in here because I matched this.
And
You
I
matched
matched your
that.
pants.
Oh, and you
You
matched
matched
and the
the
cups.
Yeah,
And the
I'll match
cups.
the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wes,
Are we
what are
gonna-
you doing? You gotta...
Yeah, I fucked up.
Well, you're wearing the swimsuit,
Yeah.
which goes into the book we have read.
Look.
It's book time.
Haunted.
So I
Okay.
feel like
Okay. Oh, I'm pulling it out.
Oh,
Oh, she has the physical book.
oh shit.
'Cause she's.
I don't have the physical.
Oh, no.
Oh, you got
she has a
a
notebook.
Oh, yeah.
You're like the Holly now, all of a
So,
sudden.
I-
Bringing the list.
Before the list of characters was mentioned, we talked about a list of characters, so I wrote them down.
Oh,
Perfect.
that's so
Better.
smart.
Well, that's better because the list you sent me was really good because I haven't finished the book all the way. I know how it
Yeah.
ends, so I know, like, don't worry about spoilers. I'll finish it eventually. But I just, because, like, if you tell me I'm still going to finish it, it doesn't bother me that much when I read it. Especially if I'm listening to a book. I don't care if I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the list you sent me, it was, like, really good. But I feel like it's not personal because you don't really understand the characters. It just basically gives you the synopsis of, like, the character story, and, like, that's it. But I feel like
There's no like
I'm excited.
explaining like why they're connected.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us like a
Oh, why you chose
like a
the book and all that stuff.
spearhead explanation of what's going on in the book, and then we'll do a deep dive on like
The
character
individual
specifics
stories and stuff.
kind of like the
Perfect.
meaning behind each story.
Yeah.
Okay, so this book, this book was criticized by many because it came out originally as a novel. And people were like, no, this is just a collection of short stories. So then they addendum that ass.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay, this is a collection of short stories. And then people were like, no, there's an overall story. So there's a lot of controversy over what category this book is. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's this writer's retreat about 17 people who agree to go on this writer's retreat for 3 months. All of their needs will be taken care of. Shelter, food, water, all of the essential needs. All they need to do is pack one bag, and it's limited to one bag. And then they go on this writer's retreat with no contact to the outside for 3 months. And I think it's very important to the story to say how it was set up. Because there were billboards and prints everywhere for about a week, all about this writer's retreat. And I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 50 people came to the meeting, and then people left once they heard you could have no contact with the outside. You just focus on your writing. But these 17 people stayed and agreed to go to this writer's retreat. So Mr. Whittier, who is such a fantastic character.
his story
Yeah,
is
right?
wild.
It's wild. And then Tess Clark, who's one
Miss
of,
Clark, yeah.
honestly, my favorite characters.
She's my favorite character too. Straight facts.
And honestly, it's because she gets more backstory than anyone
Yeah.
else.
yeah.
But they take these 17 people to this abandoned theater, and they lock them in for 3 months of this writer's retreat. And overall, it's about how the characters evolve into making... I have this whole thing, because there are 3 prevalent variations of all of the people in the world, of society. There are heroes, villains, and victims. And these
I love
people try to categorize themselves, but they get locked in this theater, and the way the book is set up, it's a chapter of what's going on in the theater, and then a poem of the character, of one character of the 17, and then the short story they wrote. And some of them, it's pretty unknown whether it's autobiographical
Yeah.
or a short story that they wrote.
So,
I
like,
think-
you don't know if that character's actually experienced or if they just wrote a cool story.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
But-
one thing I was going to say about it is because the whole thing of like kind of like the victimization of it, they literally mention multiple times where they're like kind of like, you know, creating the situation themselves is kind of like we can only they basically like are like we can only write from experience because that's like where the rawest form of like stuff comes from. And so like when they give the stories you're like
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting. Okay, I'm just gonna say right off the bat, knowing myself, there will be so many spoilers.
Yeah.
So the book
Yeah.
is Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. I suggest everyone read it. It's
So
such a
good.
mind
It's real
fuck.
good.
And if you need a reason to read it, He also wrote Fight Club, which is more popular. Everyone knows
Yeah, and
what
everyone
Fight
knows
Club
what
is.
Fight Club is.
So
We
his
don't talk about
mind,
it.
Well, we don't
yeah,
talk about it here.
you
Yeah.
can't. But his mind is obviously
So creative.
vast and creative and unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of controversy. He's gotten a lot of bad reviews on this book
Oh, yeah.
because it was marketed as a scary story,
Mm.
and it's not really scary. It's more of like a
Yeah.
psychological thriller.
And it's just more like fucked up.
Yeah, it's
But the
very
thing-
graphic.
The thing is, that's why I hate people that are like, "Ooh, is it scary or not scary?" Is because it's like for me, like that's why I love horror, because it doesn't scare me,
Yeah.
but fucking like it doesn't like I can't like SVU or like things like that don't scare me, but it scares me because that's actually can happen.
Like, it's,
Mhm.
Like there's never going to be like a
Realistic.
legit I'm going to go to camp and there's going to be an ex, like there's not going to be a Jason there, like
Yeah.
legitimately like I mean obviously that's happened before where like at a camp there's been murders or like Carols have been kidnapped. There's like tons of things that can happen, but like when I watch Friday the 13th, I'm not going to be like, what if that happens to me?
Well, horror is very subjective, so like I think that this book like could scare a lot of people
yeah.
in a way that isn't like Freddy's gonna get you. Like
Mhm.
if you actually read the book and sit down and think about what he's saying, that like there was parts that gave me anxiety.
Oh,
and I don't
yeah.
ever really struggle with anxiety. I was like,
You're like,
this makes me
"Oh,
uncomfortable to think about. Like
fuck."
this is way bigger. I mean, do we
Yeah.
consider the book satire? Like, does it?
Like, the thing is some of it I would consider it.
Yeah.
But then
Mhm.
other times it's kind of like, oh, no.
I think if it was in the genre of satire, it would be dark satire.
Yeah.
Because there are parts where
Definitely.
it's very dark, and then there are parts where it's funny in that dark way.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very popular with millennials.
I almost feel like if you went into this book with different mindset every time, you would have a different experience. Because if you went in thinking this was a comedy book
Oh.
instead of like a horror or a psychological thriller, the book is actually fucking hilarious
Yeah.
because
yeah.
of how ridiculous it is.
Because it's like
But then
so.
it's
it-
ridiculous in the fact that like
insane.
the stuff that it says, you're like, oh wait, this is more reality than I want to
Yeah.
digest.
Yeah, because it's basically they use like the reality, but then they amplify it to the extreme to kind of give that effect
Yeah.
of like this shit actually can happen, and like this is probably something that somebody has already fucking done, and like all of this shit. Like I would say the satire, especially, I would consider the like schlook
Yes.
story
Yeah.
Okay.
is probably the most satire-ish.
I love how that was an inside joke, too.
Right?
So, okay.
Should we start from the beginning and move through the
Move
book
through,
as it
yeah.
progresses?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's probably be easier because the thing
we
with
jump
this
through.
book is it's so hard because it's so easy to jump around. Because like I haven't finished the book, but like the last thing I kind of, what are you doing?
Book club.
Book club.
club.
And alcohol.
No,
We're talking about Chuck Palahniuk's Haunted.
But like for me, because like I didn't finish the book fully. Like I know what happens somewhat at the end because Cass was telling me. But like the last story I read is what I really want to talk about because I just recently like
Yeah.
listened to it and it's still in my brain because the thing is with like each story it makes you like really think or consider, and then that's why it's hard to like not jump around in this book because I feel like also too I feel like each story resonates with people differently. So I feel like what I thought was like this part or like what I found very interesting, like I loved the blonde Miss America's story.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh,
like
yeah.
how it was like her husband who she's about to have a baby with and like his backstory of like how his dad anyways, but like we'll get that in a second. But like I just like it's just like it bounces so crazily. I love this book. It's so good.
Oh, it's such a
It
good
was
book.
So good.
I'm so glad that we read this book.
I'm so glad
Because
too.
it's such a mind fuck, and it makes you think about everything,
Yeah.
and in 3 months, you kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
like you want to
still...
reread it.
Yes,
Well,
very
and
much so.
I definitely, and I've never read a book in my life. And granted, I'm not a huge bookie. Like I've probably read like maybe 50 books total.
Mhm.
I've never read a book where I felt like I could pause after every short story or poem and write a fucking paper just about that
Yeah,
specifically.
literally.
And then write a paper about the whole overarching story. Like, it just feels like there was so much to take in that I feel like you don't do yourself justice unless you read it a second time.
Literally.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
crazy.
Well, because I feel like also too with that, like just bouncing off that, is like it has such a shock factor at some stories. Like my last story is the police story, and that's all I'll say because we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But that was my last story, and I know if I reread it again, I'm gonna be like, well, because the thing is about that story is that I know when I reread it again because I've been thinking about it so much. That's partially why I didn't keep reading the book, because I was like, this story has been sticking so hard with me because it's like, it's just so crazy how like Chuck Palahniuk, he's so good at that. He's so good at making you like feel almost like you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I was reading Fight Club, I felt almost like one of his drones, kind of like when I was reading it, because I was like, oh, that, because like there was parts where, you know, where he's not his alternative self, and he's like, we need to end Fight Club, and they're like, okay, sir.
Yeah.
They're like, all right.
They're like,
Aye, Captain.
they're like, I copped it, and they're like, okay. But it's like almost like, it's crazy just like how you're like, you just get so involved, and like I started feeling like I was going crazy because I was like, why aren't these people listening to him saying Fight Club's over?
Yeah.
Even though I already knew the end,
Yeah.
I still was like,
Now,
these people.
Now, I did put in because we have a group chat, obviously, for the book club, and I made a harsh judgment about the book early on because I thought I was getting involved in a book that just wants to be edgy. So if you guys are listening to this and you hop in the book,
It's going to sound edgy.
you
gonna
have
seem
to
edgy.
push past that first, like, what, hour-ish, hour and a half. It's like a 13-hour
Yeah.
listen. Maybe, like, the first, like,
It's like
50 pages because it's telling you a crazy story to start, but all of it links together.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like that
Well-
was the one thing that I kind of, not that I struggled with because like it's a book, I want to hear it, but I just felt like I couldn't like get my mind off the fact that it was like talking about like subjects that were like, I mean, I guess I don't give not safe for work warnings, but this book has a lot of like, you know,
Very intense graphic.
yeah,
Themes?
like the first thing that
Yes.
they talk about is kids who are like teenagers who who accidentally kill themselves trying to masturbate in crazy ways, and then it gets covered up.
Yeah.
And like I think in
Yeah.
the first like 10 minutes listening to the book, that talks about some guy shoving a carrot up his ass, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, are we like,
Is this what this book
Yeah.
is about?
yeah?
Well,
But if you push past it, there's so much.
Well, yeah, because I started this book when you started it in that that July, 3 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, sometime
Because you
around
started
then.
it, and I started it
Yeah.
like months before, but I couldn't get past that first little bit. Like, because it starts, the thing about that's hard with this book is it starts off with a short story, and then you understand what's happening.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like it's hard to get into the book.
And there's also, I think it's like 2 or 3 chapters just about descriptions of what's happening on the bus before the story actually starts.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
lot of descriptions about characters, and you don't, like, it's kind of hard to read unless,
You're
yeah,
invested.
it is.
They throw you into the.
They really
mix.
just kind of
They
go,
really
boom.
do.
Yeah.
And it's hard to read without, like, knowing, okay, not all of the book is just these quick, quirky
Yeah.
descriptions about
Yeah.
these characters, because they don't actually give much physical attributes, and
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to imagine
yeah.
until you're in the book.
Right.
Like,
then it goes to
fairly
each
deep.
character, because I feel like it just kind of gives you an overall, and it doesn't really say what's even still going on, and you're just like, why the fuck do I care about these people on a bus?
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
the one thing that the bus part actually interests me because what Holly just said is I felt like I was like sitting in the front row looking back
Yeah,
at all
looking
these
at all
people
these
like,
people.
well, that lady got bags. Like, what the fuck is
Lady
going
bag
on?
lady.
Or you're like, why is that woman super hot and pretty? Like, why is she at this one? Or
Why
like,
is
why
she
does that
here?
why does that guy have to poop so much?
And they definitely talked about like
Yeah.
the whole thing was they come for the 3 months to create their masterpiece. They kept saying masterpiece, masterpiece. And
Yeah.
I think that the masterpiece is also subjective to just like what, like, I don't even know, like your life goal almost, not necessarily like
Yeah.
a piece of like writing, but like trying to become who you want to be.
Summing up your life
Yeah.
in one piece.
Yeah.
Because they even
Short story, novel, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
even mentioned that like none of them are necessarily writers,
Mhm.
and like that's not like necessarily what they do, and that's why they like create this situation for them in the
You know what
in the theater and everything.
You know what I just thought about? So, like, and maybe this is something that everyone thought about. You know how in life, like in general, every single human has, like, a point that happens in their life, and then after that point, you're different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that what everyone's story was? Was
I
that
would
their
assume
turning
so. That was
point?
that was their
I agree
turning
with that
point.
point.
Yeah, exactly.
I think yes and also no. Because I feel like that turning point for a lot of the characters' stories, that's what they were heading to. They always knew, not necessarily consciously, but subconsciously, that's where... Because with this book, I have to remind myself of my own situation a lot, and this is relatable, but every choice... A Rick and Morty episode, the Pickle Rick
Yeah.
episode about the therapy said it best. Every choice you make is your own choice. You
Right.
choose where you are,
yeah.
and every single character chose where they were in those stories.
Right.
So I feel like it's a turning point, but into themselves
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
a way, where they chose to be there. They chose to do that because they were always kind of feeling like they should choose to do that. They knew where their life would go.
Right.
So it's a turning point, but also not.
Yeah. Hi there. Also,
Hello.
we were talking
Hey.
about Chuck Palahniuk's Haunted. It's a book.
It's
Book
our
club.
book
Hello.
of the month. Hello, everyone.
Book of the month. One thing I actually noticed about, so I also, like, as you mentioned, like, before we actually started doing live, basically, I noticed in this kind of Reddit forum that people were talking about, like, how, disgusted they were by a lot of kind of the stuff that was
Yeah.
mentioned in it, because even the Guts, which is the first chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first chapter is actually what Chuck Palahniuk will do. He did a live reading one time, and it was so disgusting that people actually passed out at the live reading, and people are like, I actually wasn't disgusted by that. I was disgusted more by, also this is a spoiler alert, later on in the book, not during like the short stories and like the poems, in like the in-between of them describing this story coming all together, they basically take this pregnant woman's baby right after and they eat it, and they try to make her eat it as well. And they're like, I was disgusted by that. And everybody's responses were like, actually, like, I understand that was like disgusting and everything, but one thing that you don't exactly realize, because of all of like the intense descriptions and all of the stories, they're so graphic and just like very descriptive, that all of the in-between stories aren't descriptive at all.
Yeah.
At all. They don't describe like, the smell of the flesh burning or like any of that stuff that they would in the stories. They're basically just kind of like doing an overall summary. And so people were like, I'm surprised that you were disgusted by the thing that wasn't described the most, because it kind of leaves a little more to the imagination of kind of like, you actually now all of a sudden have to think about what that was like, not having it directly told to you, and giving it immediate imagination. And so
Right.
it all depends on kind of like just how wild your imagination will go.
And, this is from a monologue from a movie, not at all related, but it described the most effective point of a striptease in about a 2-minute striptease. You don't take off clothes. You don't actually remove any clothing until about 1 minute and 30 seconds in, because the imagination will make your body more pleasurable and more amazing than anything your body could actually be. So I feel like that's a testament to how powerful the mind is, without that description of being told, hey, this is what you should think, this is what it would taste like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a great explanation for a lot of things too, like especially in the world that revolves around sex as a whole, because at least from my perspective as a guy, there was times in my life where, like, I might be talking to someone and, like, the intention was to try and hook up or whatever. And, like, that, the whole entire build up to get to that point was the fun.
That was
and then when the fun
time.
actually happened and it was over with, it was like, oh, like, what was, like...
You're just kind of like...
I was like, oh, that was great. But it was like, I think that's why you hear people who say they like the chase. Right? The chase, because your brain just runs wild. And then when you finally achieve that moment, you're like, okay.
Well, and I think that's also... I don't know where I was going with that. I was going to say something that I was like, I don't know what that's relevant. Anyways, but yeah.
I feel like the moments in between the short stories is all about the chase, and you never actually get that final image. Yeah, and that's what makes it such a satisfying book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that makes me upset about, like, people criticizing him for, like, the fucked up things he does, and I brought this up multiple times, the things that Stephen King gets away with because he's Stephen King is unreal. And I'm not even talking about, because everyone knows the It with the children orgy messed up, but there's other things that I've, like, read from him,
like in The Shining.
The Shining,
the plump little cock,
that
literally fucking still haunts me.
I heard that and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Especially
what?
Especially listening to it, you're just like,
I felt my spine just, like, squish.
Literally, I remember doing my makeup while I listened to that, because I'll usually listen to the books while I'm doing my makeup, getting ready for the day, because that's, like, a good, like, 10, 20 minutes, like, you know, and every single time, for some reason, it's always, like, the most graphic parts in the books that we read, and so that was the part of it, and I literally was like, because I was like, ugh, and then I had to pause it. That's also the same thing as I was listening to the police story when I was doing my makeup, and I was like, I had to pause it and be like, I don't want anybody, like, actually hearing me listen to this.
Yes, but, like there was, like, because, like, they were talking,
I have a name, Nick.
Oh, we're women.
Nick, I have a name.
My gender. I could have the biggest schlong in the room. You don't know me.
We know she
under
has the
that
biggest
pillowcase.
Yeah.
Hell.
She's like, fuck you.
I just got it yesterday, and I can return it, but it's a pain in the ass. It also has pockets. It's a pocket dress.
And
Hey.
vibes.
Thank you, Nick.
You know,
I
thanks
love
Nick Joy.
Nick Joy.
But it reminds me of, like, because I kind of walked in a little bit later, but, like, when they were, like, saying, like, people were complaining about, like, the baby scene, I remember there's a part in Stephen King's biggest known series, The Dark Tower, where there's literally a guy who gets off by, like, harming people in a certain way.
Yeah,
like,
you were telling me about that.
His thing, like, one of the main things, I'll just, like a brief, quick
Thanks for the
thing
follow.
was...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the bitch
he
joke.
he would get aroused by, like, harming other people, but one of, like, the things that, like the scene was he dropped a brick off of, like, a 10-story building and, like, jizzed in his pants. Like, that's basically, like, what the, like, this guy was about, was, like, doing things like that. And, like, I mean, there's a lot to it's really interesting kind of how I really love the Dark Tower series. I need to finish it, but it's interesting how, like, it builds. But, like, he wrote about this guy that was his thing, but yet no one ever talks about it because they talk about the rest of the Dark Tower series.
Right.
Yeah. But it sucks because, like, Chuck Palahniuk will talk about this book that has so many... A lot of the stories are based off true incidents with people. Yeah. That's why it's, like... He's talking about real people. Stephen King is just making up...
He's just making up this really fucked shit.
But it's, like, it's just crazy how, like, some authors are so highly criticized, while other authors, it's, like, because they're Stephen King, it's fine.
Right.
Because, like, I don't know if you guys read Carrie, his first one. That one was pretty fucked, too.
Yeah.
With, like, the talking about, like, her, like, getting her period. Like, the whole...
Yeah, that whole...
The book was really good. I mean, you don't really need to read the book if you watch... all 3 of the remakes and the movies
and the musical.
That
fucking musical.
You don't need to read Carrie if you've seen the first movie, and that's the only time I will ever say that.
The OG movie is like...
No, actually, I'm gonna say it. It's uncontroversial because no one's seen it. I like the first remake of Carrie so much better. It's just because Carrie, it's so good. I don't like the new one, but there was one before that no one has ever seen, and it's actually so good.
Which one? When was it made?
I think it was 2008. No, wait, because 2014-16 was when Chloe
Martinez.
Is it
What is
Martinez?
it? Is it Martinez? Or it's like
It's just the girl with like really big lips.
Chloe,
like the
she
blonde hair, like platinum blonde.
She's in like every teen movie. Anyways, but it was the one before that, so I think it was 2006, 2008. I want to say, because it was still pretty not. But the thing is, no one watched it. But like the thing is with like it like upsets me with like when people critique authors on like their fucked upness. It's like, why do we put a standard on one author that it's like it's fine, and another author it's not fine, kind of thing.
Just because he's more like mainstream, that people are like, it's okay because it's fucked up because he's him.
I think people just.
Well, people just like to complain about things, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Big facts, you know.
But
kind of want to know
anyways,
some of your lists.
let's keep going with the book Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk.
And also,
Is it Palahniuk? Wait, how do you say it?
Palahniuk. Yeah, I always say Palahniuk.
Palahniuk.
I know, and it bothers me so much.
I'm so sorry.
But I feel like with Chuck Palahniuk, I talked about this a little at the beginning, but
Who wants a free sub? I'm feeling generous. And
So-
give it.
they're the captors in this writer's retreat. Yeah, come in. But there's Mr. Whittier and Tess Clark.
Yes.
And they are the leaders of this test retreat. And it's very interesting in the book. This book is all about how much people victimize themselves to gain that attention and weirdly respect. Especially since right now, not as much right now, but definitely in the earlier 2010s, victims were criticized so much. But
I feel like anytime before 2010, victims were very much criticized in a lot of things.
I mean, I don't want to touch on really, like, new subjects, but there was something that happened locally that was all over our news, and I'm not going to use names or anything like that because I don't want to get involved. But someone had gotten killed.
Eat the man.
Gotten killed over a situation that they shouldn't have gotten killed for because they were out doing something that I guess morally people aren't okay with it, which morals are 100% based on the person, there's not universal morals. I don't care what anyone says. Anyways, this person, like, I've seen so much victim blaming because this person was, I don't know how to say this without telling it. So a lady and a guy were talking on Tinder. They met up, I imagine, to hook up, and she got stabbed to death.
Well, no, because they went on a date. She went back to his house. They had sex, and right after they had sex, he started choking her and then stabbed her to death, and then called the cops right after.
He called the cops right after, and I see so much victim shaming because she had sex with this guy. And I'm like, come on, no one deserves to die.
Over a
I don't want to get into that because that's touchy and that's fresh, and I don't want anyone to really.
No, but not even that though. Not even bringing up that situation with what tragically happened with her is it's terrifying as even a guy, but mostly as females because like I'm recently single, so like if I did start dating, like it's terrifying to think about going to a guy's house that I don't know because like you want to be able to have that freedom to like explore new people and like I want to be like you want to be a part of that hookup culture, but it's like it's so terrifying because it's like you don't know if that guy you hook up with is just gonna, as soon as you guys have done having sex, is gonna choke you out and murder you.
Right.
Because like, and that's the thing that I guess that always, it's not as it's so much. It's like a new refresher, but then again, women have always been dealing with that, especially with like the Ted Bundys and the things like that. But I feel like it's hard.
Ooh, that booty.
That booty though.
Oh, I realized we were on a stream.
But so I feel like it's hard. Well, where were you going with that? With the victim blaming? Oh, blaming her for putting herself in that situation where it's like she just wanted a night of fun, but now she's the whore because she met up with a random guy and had sex.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucked
That's
up because
not-
that's not what.
That's not
Yeah.
fair. Because then, like, people who... Because, like, even if they didn't even hook up, it doesn't mean he wouldn't have done it to another girl.
I think what happens is people want to push their narrative and their morals on other people, saying that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, if you do this thing, then that's going to happen. When in reality, morals are there's not baseline morals. I don't
Yeah.
care what anyone says. Your morality comes from yourself.
Uh-huh.
There's
Yeah.
people who do not, like, things that most people would say aren't good, but that still
But to
doesn't
them-
make it, like, where I think morals need to cross the line is, like, is it harmful to someone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to thank Nick for hooking us up with some bits.
Oh, hell yeah, Nick!
Hey,
Yes.
shout out to the Nick.
Joe gifted 2 subs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Hooking
had
it
some
up.
other people.
Nick Joy.
What are those things called? with
Sparks.
We got a couple sparks. I
Sparks.
said thanks to what was his name? We scroll up a little bit. But anyways, Eat the Man.
Yeah.
Eat the man.
Eat the man.
Slimmer Joe.
And Eat the Man
And eat the man
again.
again.
And someone was asking, are we streaming to other platforms? Yes, we're on Twitch, YouTube, DLive, and Facebook.
We're multi-streaming
We're
because we
multi-streaming.
are
And
that
hey,
bitch.
Julius
Sneezer?
Sneezer?
Sneezer.
I fucking
That
like
a
that.
That's actually real good.
That'll
like
bring
this.
us up to him.
Thank you for that.
Sneezy.
Oh!
And also the Hype Burger.
The
The
Hype.
Hype
Hype
burger is
burger.
dope.
The burger is the hype.
Thanks for the
That's
follow,
good.
Egg Shin.
Eggshin.
Eggshin?
And Julius
Eggshin.
Sneezer.
Thank you, Julius, for the follow.
Thanks,
But
Nick, for keeping up with us.
Thanks. Thanks for keeping up with this.
Yeah, let's continue with
Continue
the
with-
characters in the story.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
but
Allie, our girl. This time.
I feel like, and you said that before the podcast, that it's edgy and angsty for the point
For the
of being edgy and
purpose.
angsty.
Yeah.
And I agree with that with this book. Definitely in the beginning, and also a little bit throughout the book. It is just kind of angsty to be angsty.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the subtext speaks so much more about what's going on in the society. And
Yeah.
I feel like Guts is the perfect way and the worst
Yeah.
way to start this book.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the death by masturbation.
Yeah.
And also the people who survive, and now that's just their shame with their family.
Yeah.
And it's an unspoken shame. It's always the elephant in the room where
Yeah.
your closest people, your
Yeah.
family, by birth, is supposed to be the people who surround you the most.
Yeah.
And yet there's always that unspoken barrier between, hey, this is here what I did, and you will never forgive or forget me
Yeah.
for that specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I love, that he calls it, like, everybody has a carrot hanging over their head story.
Yeah.
I love that because he starts out with, like, isn't it like his own personal story where basically he goes and he wants to, like, try out, like,
He's trying out
some
new
butt
things
stuff.
to do.
Yeah, and he literally gets a carrot and puts it up his ass and all that stuff, but then his mom calls him down for dinner and he like hides it in his laundry, right? Or something
Yes.
like that. And then he
He
goes
hides it in his
downstairs and he
laundry.
comes back up and his mom has taken his laundry and the carrot is gone. And he's
Yes.
like, but it's something that they never talk about or anything, but he's
No.
like, but I know that she knows.
Well, and then it goes into sounding, and the kid who put the wax down his pee hole that
Oh.
hardens, and then he has to go. And, like, the whole idea of this is, like, showing this example of crazy shit, but then what was just mentioned with the whole, like, now that's hanging over your head, and even your family knows about it, so there's always that, like, we could have dinner tonight and have a great conversation, but you're still the kid who fucking had a carrot up his ass.
Yeah.
And I
You
feel
know,
like
I
that's honestly why I kind of love this book, because a lot of stories are about the adventure and then the climax, and it's such a
Literally.
great story. Literally. But it's such a great story, and then we get a half-assed ending. This book is more about the after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in traumatic tales, where it's like, hey, I did this thing. We all know I did this thing
Yeah.
that's shameful in society.
But
Here is how I live after that. And then also how that affects the future, especially with every single character's mindset.
Well, and I can't remember
Yeah.
which story it is that talks about it, but there's definitely like, I don't know the exact quote, but it's brought up the fact that, okay, so let's say you had this carrot hanging over your head, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, there's so many people who will wait to be saved out of that situation instead of moving on themselves. And I feel like that's like a big overarching thing of this whole entire book, because it's like,
Oh my.
how long are you willing to sit
Don't mean to.
in misery hoping that someone saves you versus you saving yourself? And that's what the whole entire retreat was, is these guys wanted people to come and save them, and then they become famous instead of doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they even, at the end of the book, they have a moment where they're free.
Yeah.
They are absolutely free, and they choose
Not.
to lock the door and wait for someone else to save them just to be noticed. Because I feel like, especially with the sister vigilante story,
Oh.
there is such a big hatred on heroes because it's an undercurrent theme, but no one in this story wants to be saved too soon. They don't want to give that credit to the heroes. They
Yeah.
don't want their credit stolen.
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big. Carrot.
Is
Mega
is
carrot.
Mega
Mega carrot. Yeah, that's kind of like I just lost my train of thought, but wanting to be like saved is kind of like their whole thing, but the whole thing is that they don't necessarily want to be saved. They want to struggle enough that they outshine the hero in the fact that they struggled so much that people are like, oh, are you okay? Not
Like-
kind of like good for you that you saved all these people. They want to be able to outshine it, because if they didn't suffer enough, then they'll just be outshone by like the hero in the situation.
Like they want
And-
their tragedy to be bigger than the fact that they got saved.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's this very large stigma about heroes in the book that directly translates into our reality, our
Yeah.
society, where heroes are not the most praised. And I mean, even with all of the true crime junkies, hear me out, I'm with you, but the villains even get more publicity and more credit than the heroes, because in this particular story, a hero is the worst thing that you can be.
Yeah.
Because
no one cares at the end of the day about a hero as much as they are like, wow, I can't believe that person suffered so much. And like that's why Nick, it is like bragging rights to be like,
Based
oh,
on
I can't
suffering.
believe. That's
Yes.
why like with people like too, it's hard because like there's some people that won't move past their traumas because they then make that their identity. And it's like you can kind of tell in this book that they're definitely like self-sabotaging / making it so they become a victim / they become this sad story because that's going to make them
Yeah.
famous / give them the most hype, and it gives them most bragging rights.
I think that, well, a couple things here. One thing that blows my mind is this book was written pre-social media.
Yeah.
And this is so
Pre-social
prevalent in
media.
social media. And what you're saying is true. I think that people, and this is such a touchy subject because I think when people have some specific traumas, it's hard not to become that trauma.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, I don't have trauma personally, so I don't want to speak on it and be that guy who's like, well, you don't fucking know, you haven't had that happen, you don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
On that same breath, I feel like the whole idea of hoping that someone comes to save you and moves you into this instead of you trying to take even tiny steps to get yourself in a better position,
Yeah.
that's this whole book. Like, they wanted to, instead of literally walking out and being like, okay, well, we can just go live with our lives and maybe we can do our masterpiece, or maybe we're in control of our own reality, so maybe we
Yeah.
can get these things. They want people to give it to them.
Well, because a lot of, like, halfway through the book, they were like, who cares about our the reason why they went on the writer's retreat is so they can create their masterpiece and become a famous author. But half the time, like literally halfway through the book, everyone's like, nah, fuck that. I want to write about this situation.
Specific situation.
So they start creating their own suffrage so that way they can have more to write about. And that's why I hate people, and me and I looked at each other, I hate people who have, it's not that I hate people who've gone through trauma, I just hate people, I hate people who use their trauma to be a shitty person.
Yes. They use it as an excuse of well, sorry, I'm doing this, but I had trauma.
The thing is that makes me upset about it. And, like, a lot of people, like, with divorce, like, a lot of people, like, are like, my parents are divorced. I don't know how to handle myself. My mom left me when I was 6. You don't see me acting like a fucking asshole ever about it. Mm-hmm. My mom deadass left the day after Christmas, may I say, and was like, bye. And I never have used that as a crutch for anything.
No, literally.
And so I had a fair amount of traumatic experiences, and then I moved to California, and I was so broke that the only viable option I could turn to was an escort service. Yeah. And so I had sex with old men for money, but that is not an excuse for my behavior today. It's a reason. Don't get me wrong.
There's reasons.
It's a valuable reason, but that is not any excuse for my behavior today. Yes. And I feel like that's especially what this book pinpoints is your past experiences. They have made you stronger or weaker. Neither is shameable, but perpetuating this victimized persona, especially by choice, is harmful to you and other people.
Yeah.
And the idea of people victimizing themselves in daily life, because we've all done it.
Yeah.
Everyone has done it.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
You've, even in, like, the coffee shop, the coffee person said something weird to you, and you use it as like a, this person did something shitty to me for attention. Everyone does it. This book takes it to the extreme and shows how, hey, that isn't right for yourself and other people. This is how you can learn from it.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like, too, and I don't know if this is just human nature, but it almost is like an underlying thing of like trying to be competitive with your suffering or be competitive with your victimizing. Like, well, you don't know, I've been through more. But in reality, like, okay, let's say like something tragic happened to me and the same thing happened to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it hit me a little bit harder than it hit you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would me and you compete on
it would be like, well, mine's worse because of this and this.
Like, all that's doing is making the scenario worse, when in reality, as humans, I don't know anyone who hasn't gone through something that they would consider traumatizing.
Oh, yeah,
at least once. Or something that's even changed them mentally, like a specific event. So, like, why are we competing on, like, oh, well, I should be the one that people feel sorry about because I went through this, and this, when in reality, like, okay, well, what about this guy over here who went through this, and this, too?
Yeah.
Like, is it, like, everyone goes through shit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And you can't compare traumas because you can't compare how, that's why, like, it upsets me so much when people, like, criticize other people, like, oh, they should just get over it. It's like, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say, but sometimes it's so hard to get over something traumatic happening. It has to be on that person to either get over it or not get over it.
Yeah.
And I don't think being like, just get over it is going to ever be helpful, because just because you don't think a situation was traumatizing doesn't mean it wasn't.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember, so I had like this friend in high school, and will not name names, but like she
I know
you know who it is. But she literally, like, she would do the whole thing of kind of like the competitive sort of thing, but it was in the fact of kind of like, since my parents ended up moving into like a much bigger house and all of this stuff, and so she saw me as like, you know, kind of like super rich and nothing was wrong. And so I feel like in herself she wanted to kind of like, I don't know, take me down a peg for some reason, just because I had more at the time than she did. And we would be hanging out in something like that, and she found out something about me that was kind of like one of my traumatic things, and she decided to later copy it. And then be like, well, mine's worse because then also, like...
It correlates with this.
Yeah, because it's like this, and, like, actually, like, mine is much worse. She was, like...
She was the worst. I also knew this friend. I was friends with her because it's funny, me and Cass both had... So we had, like, these friends in high school, and once we graduated, I dropped this one friend she stayed friends with, and she dropped her, and I kept with her. And then we both realized, like, almost correspondingly that these were both shitty people. And we were both like, why are they not... Like, I knew why Cass wasn't friends with her, but, like, I didn't see it because I was like, she never did it to me, and then she did it to me because in high school, it wasn't a traumatic experience, like, something, like, because the thing is with trauma, it's so hard to, like, you can't categorize trauma, because a situation happened to me, and to me it affected me a lot, and something happened to her, which I know she lied about, I'm not going to say, but, which, then I was talking about that experience and how it's, like, how I feel about it now, months later, and she's like, well... my experience with this one guy, and then she completely changed the story, and I was just like,
You were literally there.
I was literally there. First, this is a long story, so I won't talk about it because I'm not trying to get into any beef with this person because I don't give a shit. Beef. But it was just like the situation was, it was like I was trying to talk about how something affected me, and it's still resonating with me at this moment, and like I've overcome it. I don't give a shit anymore. This was high school when that happened, and it wasn't an issue, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but at the time, right out of high school, I was still affected by it. And so then I was trying to talk to her about it, and she literally changed the subject and was like, well, my trauma is this. And I literally was like, well, first of all, I knew her trauma was fake news.
Fake news.
I also think, too, with trauma, like, there's a flip side of all of this, too, right? Like, I want to play, like, the other side, because, like, we're talking about people who use it for self-gain, but I think there's a lot of people who are so afraid to even ask for help because they're going to get shamed. Yeah. And that aspect should never happen either, because if someone is a victim of whatever it might be, they should never be shamed for it. They should get helping hands, because, like, you know, it's so hard for most people to get over certain things by themselves. Yes. And sometimes all it takes is just having a person to go to that you feel comfortable talking with. Yeah. You know, a friend, a family member, a doctor, a psychic, like, or whatever, not a psychic, but like maybe a psychic, I don't know.
We don't know. Like, a shaman.
Yeah.
Whatever you do.
Yeah, a warlock, I don't know.
Whatever your
thing
is.
That side of things too, like, people should never be afraid to... I know that people shame. Like, people will shame. People will. Like, you might tell someone your life story, and their first thing is going to be like, well, you fucked up because you're a whore and a dumbass, and, like, that should never happen, because if someone's genuinely coming to you for help, just be helpful. Listen to them. And be honest with them. Like, be like, hey, you know what? I don't know if I can help you, but I'm always here. And I feel like that doesn't happen enough in society, especially with social media, because someone will make a post, and then you're like, okay, well, do they need help? Do they not need help? Like, it's such a tough subject.
No, exactly. That's kind of like one thing. I mean, like, I hope it's okay that, like, you know, Holly and I, like, especially with, like, our relationship, like, we live together and everything, and, like, the thing is, like, whenever I've gotten to a point where, like, I know when something's, like, up, or, you know, something like that. And I'm always kind of, like, because Holly's a very kind of, like, she won't exactly come out and say that, like, hey, I'm having an issue. I'm usually the person who will be like, hey, are you okay? Yeah. And I'll always say that I'm just kind of like, same. I've gotten to a point where I'm just kind of like, obviously I'm not, like, you know, a licensed professional. I can't help you, like, figure out your trauma or, like, what's going on necessarily in a professional manner, but I am your friend, and I'm here for you, and if you need someone to listen to you and comfort you, I am always here.
And that's, and, like, sometimes that's all you need, because, like, because, like, the thing is, like, sometimes I feel like what I go through on a daily basis isn't something, like, worthy of, like, going to, like, therapy per se, or, like, getting professional help. But if I didn't have, like, Cass or even you, I mean, we talk sometimes about each other, so, like, and, like, Bella as well. I love you, Bella. I hope you're watching.
Hope you're watching.
But, like,
shout
out to our Bella.
To
but, like, it's nice knowing that, like, even because, like, some of the, like, because, like, I know I'm an emotion. I feel hard, and if I feel hard, like that, like that's why, like for me, I just feel way too much.
Oh, she commented Bully Oli! Hey!
But I feel like
We miss you.
we miss you so much. But like having friends that'll just even fucking listen, even if they're like, just like you're kind of being over dramatic. It's still like at least let me that's why I love my friends, and that's why I have the friends I do. It's because they let me say it, and then and the thing is, like, you don't always have to give like criticism back or be like, well, maybe you should be doing this. Sometimes you just need someone to be like, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, and that's all you have to say. And then they're just like, it's just like you're like, fuck, I felt heard.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are two. Yeah.
Nut. We nut for those good friends. We out here nutting for our friends.
But I feel with a lot of victimization, there are two very opposite sides of the pole, and there's no middle ground, because you're either, if you know that person, even if you've met that person, you feel sorry for them, you feel sympathy, a lot of time you feel empathy, and you coddle them as a victim. And then if you don't know that person, especially with social media, you shame them.
Yeah.
And there's no middle ground, and I feel like that has contributed a lot to the victim culture, especially with, like, you either feel amazing, like people praise you, people...
Thank you, Lima only. Sorry.
Lima only.
Yeah.
Put the stacking it up. We love you.
People even put you on a pedestal. They gottamize you.
Yeah.
But people also hate you for it. I think with the middle ground, it is the best. You support, you are there for them, and you also don't, glamorize it.
I think where the middle ground...
that's why Cass is amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
I think where the middle ground needs to be, at least from my perspective, is honesty.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're on, like, the right side of it, right, where you're, like, you give them so much empathy and so much, like, I don't know what word you use, like, coddling.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that in itself isn't always the best thing that needs to happen either.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's the thing is, like, we're talking about general terms, but this is a case by case by case by case thing. Like, you know, no trauma is going to be the same, so you obviously have to go in knowing the person, how are they going to react to this, well, you know, different things. But I think the middle ground is honesty, because at the end of the day, sometimes people need to hear, like,
Hey.
listen.
No, and that's why I love my friend, like, especially Cass, because there's sometimes where I'll be complaining about something, and she's like, get your fucking head out of your ass. And then I'll literally be like, I'm like, okay, you know what, you're right. I was just having a woe is me. Because sometimes I feel like with victims, too, and this isn't like victim blaming, sometimes it's just so easy to be like, woe is me, I want people to love me. Because
you want to be coddled sometimes.
Sometimes you, like, because, like, I get, like, that's why, like our friends are great because they coddle, but then sometimes you need a reality check. Because I don't think, because if you only ever coddle, like, if my friends only ever coddled with me, I know that none of you would be my friends, because then it's like, because then I'd always be like, thanks,
Jack, for the follow.
Hey, Nick Jackie
Joy.
boy.
Nick Joy coming in with the clutch.
I also think, too, like, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, no!
Fuck!
So hard.
Honestly.
No, I think, too, like, one thing that people need to realize about friends, especially, like, if you're listening to this and you're in high school, it's a different story.
Yeah.
High
school's
And
so different.
Very different.
And you're going to hear that a lot. Like, everyone's going to tell you, things change when you get out of high school. They do. Quick, too.
You're not going to believe it.
But,
congratulations.
But, like, the one thing that you
Hey,
have to remember with friends is as you start getting older, what are they doing to be your friend? Are they just there because it's comfortable? Or are they there because they actually care for you?
They genuinely
Because
care,
friends should care for you. But there's a point in time where, like, okay, are you just getting... are we just friends because, like, I like that you coddle me? I like that you tell me what I want to hear? Or are we friends because you're helping me grow, become a better human? And that's what, like, being around you guys, that's what your friend group does really well. Like, you guys seem like you're all there to legit help each other grow to become the best version of yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people just around our age group need to sit back and look at that reality and be like, are my friends here because it's convenient, or are my friends here because they're with me?
They love you.
You know?
And I'm going to say something very controversial that sounds very old school. And it's like straight boomer talk.
Oh, I'm ready for boomer talk.
But
Boomer.
I think people
Thank you, my lady.
today
Fruit toad.
are very, very sensitive. And a lot of it is for a good reason, and a lot of it is just overhype. And I think a lot of people need to take a step back and say, okay, you know what, this was a traumatizing experience for you for whatever reason, but also I need to help you grow instead of just listening to your every single complaint
Yeah.
and honestly victimizing it and over glorifying it. And I need to say something that is blunt, but also maybe you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
And you're not always right, and every single thought you say should not. Yeah, I'm calling you T-sensitive, T-farky.
T-Farky, how? You are sensitive, boy.
I was sensitive
Sensitive.
boy.
Sensitive boy.
I think you
I'm
bring up
taking the stream down.
a good point too,
Cancel.
because there is also a point of no return where, like, if a friend comes to me, right, and they really want my help or my advice or even just for me to listen to them, and I do this, but it keeps happening. They keep coming to me and keep wanting this. Like, I think there's a point in time where people forget, like, what you're bringing to me being a very emotional person. Like, I'm very emotional. I keep my emotions on my sleeve because letting it build up is stupid.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a man and hold back your emotions. It's 2020.
Come on, 2020.
But,
2020, men cry.
you know, you have to really...
West cry, baby.
Oh, I got you, Nick. I think people need to realize that, like, if you keep bringing pain and sorrows to a friend, hoping that they're the one who are going to save you, that's toxic.
That's toxic.
Yeah.
You are the person looking out for you the most. You have to be your own savior. You can't wait for your Prince Charming, man or woman. Like, you have to save yourself. And
Nick
the
Joy,
more...
God will save us all.
God will save us all.
Praise Jesus.
But yeah, you can't just wait for somebody to save you. And like,
No.
the thing is, like, that's also, like, especially with people who, like, victimize themselves a lot. I've realized that, like, I forget that some people aren't used to people just telling them, like, how it is. And, like, no matter what, I'm very honest and, like, pretty open, but I never necessarily, like, it's not like I don't think I say it in a mean way ever. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at, like, wording stuff specifically to make it so it's not like, fuck
you are very soft in the way
You do
that
soft
you
blows.
tell people blunt stuff.
Yeah.
But then also too, with you don't just say it right off the bat. It's like when it starts becoming a problem, then you're like, listen up, bitch. But you're very
Listen up, bitch.
But you're like a soft, gentle, listen up, you little cute bitch. That's how it feels.
You little cute bitch.
That's how it's like, you know, like when you say little bitch, and then when you say little precious bitch, let's
precious
go.
bitch.
Let me tell you how it is. I feel like Kat's definitely.
I think that's a good tattoo
It's
that
cute.
Nick just put. There's being blunt and there's being a cunt. Like,
Yeah, blunt and a cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
I'm usually the cunt in that scenario.
And,
And
like,
I own it, but yeah.
the thing is like, I'm a person who, I love blunt people. Like, people who will just give it to me straight, even if they're rude about it. I'm just like, I love you. Like,
Got
usually
so much
like,
respect for you.
yeah, I'm like, tell me more, I love this. And like, even though I do give things softly and stuff, and I forget that, like, some people aren't used to it. Like, I met a coworker of Nate's a bit ago, and like, I was not a fan because she reminded me of somebody who definitely
The
treated me
same
wrong.
girl we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and the same girl we were talking about earlier. And basically, she was talking, she did, like, was doing this thing where she's like, she obviously kind of like fucked over this guy who was really into her and like did something like pretty shitty, and then she was like kind of like, I'm such a shitty person, I can't even believe that, like that sort of thing. And I was just kind of like sitting there, and the thing is, I was never rude to her. Like, I'm sure she's like a great girl, I just don't want to surround myself with people like that specifically. But I was basically like, I don't think that necessarily makes you a shitty person. That's just like, obviously what you did was shitty. That was bad. That was a bad thing, because you got to think about how that affected that other person.
Right.
And you obviously didn't. But the thing is now that you're recognizing and you're feeling, like, I can tell you're feeling bad about it, but coming off in kind of an odd way. Like
she almost liked being an asshole. She's like, I'm such an asshole.
Yeah, just kind of like, oh, but like, would like do things to these like guys that I was just kind of like, I understand that you're just kind of like, you know, it's like, all men want me, it's okay that I can do this, you know. I was like, I don't think that that's all right to do, but the thing is you can learn from this experience and like make sure that you take into account other people's feelings. And she was just like, kind of like, I just met you tonight, who are you telling me this?
No one's ever probably told her that, because like, I don't want to get into that subject because that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we'll get like 6 hours into. But when we talk about appearance in 2020, I feel like there's some people who feel like they can get away with anything because of their appearance, and then when they meet genuine people, they're like, oh, like, I'm getting away with this because like,
you're hot.
You're hot.
Because you're hot. And everyone around you is disingenuous. And they're all focused on the image.
I will personally admit to being taken advantage of financially because of someone that I dated way back in the day. It was my first girlfriend. And looking back now, I realize that the love, the joy, the sex, and everything, there was ulterior motives to all of it, and I didn't see it at that time.
Handle the nut button.
Yeah. You know, and it sucks because I found that person so attractive that I was blind by it. I was like,
get called out, bitch.
I was actually going to say that I get a lot of I get free things and stuff like that, and it's very fun, and I do definitely take advantage of it.
I think that emote is the perfect simp emote.
My kind of girl.
I'm here to simp.
I'm here to simp, and I'm ready to party.
Did you get permission to simp?
Excuse me, get permission to simp.
Do you have a license to simp on this bitch right now?
I'll give you a license to simp.
Really?
I would always.
But not on you because I'm your simp, so that's never gonna happen.
Venmo to simp.
Venmo to simp, boy.
And also, can I just say, we're reviewing Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk.
Oh,
yeah.
And also, I love this book because it led to this. It leads to
a good conversation.
A great conversation about society and also personal experiences.
Yeah.
And it's not even about the book anymore.
No.
It just leads to the subtext of society and then your own personal experiences building on that.
And to be fair, we've only skimmed like the surface of one of the subjects.
We haven't even talked about the whole book. I'm so like crazy. It's crazy.
And honestly, I am fully expecting us not to talk about the full book because every single chapter
is such a, everything.
It's
it's almost like every single chapter. It's like it's not even like they're each different topics of social problems or social things. It's just each different story is just someone's legit story that just is like. And, like, the thing is that's crazy is, like, some of the stories kind of correlate with another story. And it's, like, we know we talk a lot about the beginning with masturbation a lot. But, like, that doesn't become a thing at all at the end. But then, like, the other stories, they correlate with other people's stories because it's, like, everyone in the story, like, the book has dealt with the trauma that has a turning point in their life. Or is a reason why they're kind of, like, a writer. Or the reason why they are who they are. But a lot of the stories, they're very different. But they're all kind of the same. It's kind of a little bit, I don't know.
They're all very different stories, but they all have the same vibe.
Kind of a similar theme.
The American perfect family or the American struggling student. It's all that perfect image.
Bella, don't judge us.
Well, let's not forget. Let's
know.
not forget how romanticized being saved was in every literature before the recent years.
Every
Literally.
single one.
And especially from a woman's perspective.
Yeah, kind of
It
like,
was-
I want my
That was-
knight in shining
Yeah,
armor.
but
Yeah,
that was
agree.
all
Yeah.
like being
Yeah.
saved by a man, and like obviously going into 2020, that narrative isn't
It's
as
changed.
much of as a reality, but like all the movies in the 80s and the 90s, all the music, the books, everything was
Well,
always about
everything.
being saved.
It was
Yes.
being saved and then living
Fine.
as a housewife, never having to work.
Or
any
a
of
rich
that.
or
man.
finding your perfect person, because like I was listening to, that's why it's crazy, because like it's not even just women. This comedian I listened to, he's so fucking funny. I'm trying to think of his name. He's British. He has a Netflix special that's like a 2-part Netflix special, because I guess he does it like separate years. And I was telling you about it. You can tell in the second one he definitely went through a breakup. You could tell.
Yeah.
Wait, is it
You
the
can
guy
tell.
who had the pregnancy with the one night stand?
No, this was a different guy.
Oh.
His sister had cerebral palsy and died when she was like 8.
Oh.
Or 8, no, she was 10 and he was 7. And the first episode talks a lot about that. And then the second one talks about how he's like, even as a man, and he's like, the thing that fucked me up most as a kid was my dad talking about his mom being like, he's like, when you're living your life, you're having your life is a puzzle. You start making the border, you start doing the things, and then in the center is your person, and you find that person to fit your puzzle. And that's what his dad was trying to explain love to him like. And in his brain, he was like, in my fucked up 11-year-old brain, that stuck with me, because my whole life I was trying to either force puzzle pieces together to make a relationship work, or I felt empty because my puzzle wasn't complete. And that's why it's like, it's not even just women. And that's why it like upsets me when women are like, people are like, women are always wanting to shine their shiny armor. But it's like, men are still trying to find their
I'm trying to find,
princess.
like the perfect
Mhm.
woman.
Absolutely.
Especially
Yeah.
I've realized now, since we have, an 18-year-old living with us, 'cause he's
Oh.
he's my
It's
little brother's
rough.
friend.
A little bit.
And
Love you,
like,
Aiden.
we love you, Aiden. But like, definitely, like,
You're 18.
You're 18, and like in your mind, you think of like specifically like women in like relationships. Like, you have like all of these like really high standards of like how like a woman should be.
Yeah.
Like literally.
I still feel that now.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I it was literally today when I was like, they said something about like a fupa or something, and he was like, and it was like, if a woman has a fupa, you don't go for it. And I was like, sweetie, you're not gonna find anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't have a fupa.
Like literally every single girl, like every girl you've met, probably up until now, has a fupa. You live with 2 girls that have a small fupa.
Yeah, like come on, that fat upper pussy area.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Can I just
Be
take
hot.
a second? What the fuck is a fupa?
fat
Oh.
upper pussy area.
Okay, well I don't have a fat
Okay.
upper pussy area, but I definitely have like a small gut.
Yeah, that's literally.
Isn't that-
I
I
was
thought
just
that was
telling them how you don't know what a fupa was because we already had this conversation.
Does that not? Is
No,
that?
that's not
No.
the fupa.
Aw, damn it! I don't have a
The
fupa.
fupa's the
The fupa's the
The-
like
A fat,
this
juicy
this
pussy?
area,
Yeah,
right?
the
It's
chunk
the pelvic
bef-
area.
the chunk before
Okay.
the area.
Chunk before the
Got
area.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which the thing is like most women have if they're like even like what 5-10 pounds like over their like weight or something like
I
that.
don't
No
really
matter
have my
what,
stomach
we'll
weight.
have it, and like
This-
it's a normal thing.
This is another discussion that we could have hours on because I'm a big like I'm writing a research paper, as dumb as this sounds, on why
That's so
social
fun.
media is so fucked up for society.
Mhm.
Because like I respect anyone's hustle. If you're
Yeah.
hustling, whatever you're doing, I respect it. But there's a point in time where we need to really sit back and look at the beauty industry as a whole and be like, are we fucking kids up too much because they can't live up to the hype that we give people?
yeah.
Okay,
She
wait.
got so
I
happy, like,
have
oh.
a quote from Miss America
Ooh.
in the book. Yeah, call back.
Well, because
Call back to the book.
and a little bit more on Miss America. She is what is she? She's like one of those infomercial girls.
Yes.
Where she is super pretty, super thin, super blonde, but she can't like she even talks about how she's like she can't be too blonde because then the cameras will like reflect her hair and like
And it'll make
how-
her flame.
it'll make her flame up, and that's why like you don't see redheads in porn because you can't get the good lighting.
Yes.
But it's like one of those situations.
My bad.
Whoopsie.
But it's like, so she's like, basically Miss America is an example of a Miss American beauty pageant girl.
Yeah.
But anyways, the quote.
But the quote is a shadow of a reflection of an image of an illusion. And I feel like that is so powerful,
Yeah.
especially with our generation and the
Yeah.
generations below us, because the illusion is the Barbie girl with unrealistic standards.
Yeah.
And that thin waist, big boobs, big ass, especially now with all the focus on like a curvy girl. But if you look at it, the curvy girl isn't actually like any weight on her. She just has that big ass, those big boobs, and everything else is stick thin.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the illusion that's the most powerful part of this quote.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
unrealistic, unattainable, especially if you don't have a plastic surgeon on call.
Yeah.
Well, and like,
Well,
to play
yeah.
devil's advocate a little bit, I know that a lot of people will work to get this image, and I respect
Yeah.
that type of hustle to get there.
Ooh, if you can
But-
try it, why not?
But
Yeah.
like, for example, your roommate, Captain
Yeah.
Snakeskin, right?
Snake Plissken!
Oh,
Yeah.
Snake Plissken.
Ah, you
Plissken.
don't know that
Snake
reference.
Plissken.
I don't.
See, I am dating a man who is in love. I forget his name. He's going to kill me. It's an actor. He was
Ben
very
Affleck.
famous.
I don't
No.
know.
Ben Affleck.
That's the only actor I
Don't
think
forget
of.
that
Long
fat bussy.
hair.
Agreed.
He is the face with like the light stubble. What is
Charlie
his
Hunnam.
name?
I have no idea.
Are
Okay,
you
while
talking-
you're
what
thinking
was
of
he
that-
in?
So he was in like Escape from New York, and
Oh no.
Well, I never
Oh,
seen
no.
this.
New York's pretty big. It's hard to escape.
You're talking about
New York
most
is
every
big, I
white
can't get out
man
of
in the movie industry.
So what I was gonna say with this though is like, as an example to him, and this is not a discredit to his character,
Yeah.
but he's 18, and what he's looking for in a partner
Mm-hmm.
isn't what you should really be looking for in a partner. I think attraction is important, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
you want to be attracted
Kurt
to
Russell?
your.
Kurt Russell.
Oh,
that's
Nick!
it.
Nick, you
My
got
boy.
it. Nick, my boy.
Nick Joy.
Ah.
So I'm
Oh.
dating a man who's in love with Kurt Russell.
I mean, as
He
you
ain't
should.
wrong. Yeah, he ain't wrong.
Like,
But
Okay.
I
but
get
like,
it.
like to play out devil's advocate, I feel like sometimes it's hard for men as well, especially because our roommate, he's a little bit pudgier. But I don't know. I think he's an adorable guy. But it's like he's not the typical 6-pack or at least skinny
E-boy,
white
sort
boy.
of like.
Yeah, like you
Well-
either need to be a skinny white boy or super muscular. You
One
know
that
what
was
I mean?
really tough for. I mean, because there is high expectations for men's beauty as well. It's just
Yeah.
not talked about as much because most guys are like, well, fucking ever.
Yeah.
But like,
Like they're gonna fuck me
like-
or they're gonna fuck me.
Zac Efron, for example, right? Very attractive man.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks he's
Oh,
attractive.
yeah.
He
Oh,
talked about
oh, yeah.
him trying to keep that physique that he had for the Beach movie, the
Oh,
remake, where he was just completely
I watched
shredded.
that
I mean,
one.
he had
Oh,
you could see all of,
Baywatch.
yeah, you could see all of his lats. That's how shredded he was.
Oh,
He
damn.
says it was so he was working out like 8 to 10 hours a day with no carbs, nothing. And he was like, I will never do this again because it was so mentally and physically taxing. But here's the problem from a guy's perspective. That's not even obtainable because most guys don't have 8 hours a day to work out.
Literally.
Yeah.
But we have to like feel like we have to compete with someone like him because like every girl you talk to, you say
Right.
Zac Efron. Like right when I said
literally
it, I
all
saw
of us
everyone
like,
go,
oh,
the
Zac
boy, and like
The boy.
We were just talking about him like last night or
Yeah.
something.
so
Okay.
it's tough.
Like he's hot,
But
but like
can I just say, yes, Snake
Snake
Plissken. That's exactly what I was talking about pre-show because I have watched, I want to say, every single fucking Kurt Russell movie. My boyfriend, he moved into a new apartment. Do you know the first furniture he brought? He brought his bed, a stereo, and a framed picture of Kurt Russell.
Will you let your boyfriend know that I have not met him, but I have a lot of respect?
I will.
I've met him once,
genuinely
and I
will.
respect that.
That's a
Except for the
res-
fact that he didn't get you a birthday present.
We don't have to talk about that.
We don't have to talk about that
We
though.
don't
That's gonna get
talk
us real
about
nice and
that.
pissed.
That's such a sore
That's-
subject. We're just not.
I'm defensive of my friends. I'm ready to fight at all times.
And I appreciate that.
But I love the fact that out of like, I feel like if Marshall was on a flight, like his house was starting to burn down, he would grab that picture and run.
He would, like, straight up, I'm pretty sure he would grab that picture before he grabbed me. Like, there are priorities set. Kurt Russell will win out every
I could think that
round.
moment, you're like, there's fire, he's looking at the fire. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, Kurt.
He would be like, I love you. I appreciate you.
But
and then you grab the picture and
even
run.
though
But
technically he can
it's
hold you and Kurt Russell in the same thing, he's like, I need to make sure that it doesn't get any
exactly,
damage.
like he doesn't want me to break that picture if he's carrying me.
Like, I think that's why I love, like, movies. Or, like,
I can't let me just say, you can run.
Yeah,
It's true,
like,
Kurt
you
Russell
got
don't
two
got legs
legs.
in that frame.
The frame can't move. You can. What the fuck's your problem?
Exactly. No. Okay, but to be honest, counterpoint, if there was a fire, I would wake him up, get him aware of the situation, and then I'd get the fuck out of there. Like,
Like,
you know, this is on you now.
Yeah.
I'ma
Fire.
go.
Fire guy.
I might grab my Nintendo Switch before.
Animal Crossing, you can play it outside while
Animal
you're waiting
Crossing.
for the fucking police
Exactly.
or the firefighters.
I will play it until he comes out, and I'll be like, "Oh, thank God you're alive."
You're like, look, I got a new fruit on my island.
Yeah.
I do have to give a shout out to Bieber.
Bieber is my main fucking
Fucking
lady.
man.
I love you, Bieber.
I want to
So-
fucking meet Bieber. I have
You
never
haven't
met her in
She's so
person.
good.
So
She's precious.
Bieber, because I talk a lot about her in high regards, obviously.
Because she's
My
the
lady.
best.
My Switch broke. I have the first Switch, and something happened with the screen. So I bought a replacement screen, and her dad
yeah.
attempted to fix it. Well, now it just didn't fix properly, and it's getting even a different error.
Oh,
So I was
sad
like,
days.
well, maybe we'll send it in. It's like $100 to send it in to the Nintendo company. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Alright.
So Bieber, now, bless her heart, it was so adorable. She called me and she was asking me, like, if I were to buy you something, what color would you want out of these colors? She sent me a couple colors, and I'm like, oh, well, probably this one. And she's like, okay. And then she kind of starts talking about things and, like, being adorable to try and hide the fact that she was buying me a new Switch for my birthday in July. And, like, it was adorable, and, like, it made my heart swell. I'm like, yeah.
That's so cute.
I'm gonna bawl when it shows up because I'm just like, it's so cute. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. Shout out,
Shouts
Bieber.
out
Shout out
Bieber.
But
For
Shouts
being the
out
best.
Bieber.
I agree with you, Bieber. I don't understand eye candy as well. Like, I would never pick a man just because he's cute. I would.
Yeah, I feel
Well,
like
When you're on, well, okay, that's the hard part about Tinder is that you're definitely basing it on looks, but I wouldn't stay with a guy because of their looks. Also, most of the guys I've dated, shout out to those guys that kind of all look the same.
You definitely have a type, and they all look like they should be in like a band that you listen to in junior high.
They're definitely all punk band members. Some of them are a
Fair.
little bit straight, a little bit straight, but not really.
Yeah.
Yellow card?
but
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
white
yeah.
trash. Those of you who don't know. 100%. I own it. But I worked at Motel 6 for a while.
I remember that.
I remember this one.
And one of my coworkers, she was older. She was very much older. I want to say, I'm not going on looks here because she had a drug issue, so those are unreliable. I'm going to say 50s, but she sat me down one day and she gave me 3 pieces of advice that I will never forget. One, she was like, hey, if you smoke, you'll look like me one day.
Damn.
So stop fucking smoking cigarettes because you'll turn into this. And I was like, oh, I don't want those wrinkles. So I started vaping. But then she was like, hey, I once spent a week drinking, a solid week straight. I woke up, I drank until I fell asleep, and then I woke up and drank some more, and that was the best experience of my life. So do that at one point in your life.
So do that.
And I was like, okay. And then she said, I went for the pretty boys when I was younger, when I was middle-aged. Every single time I went for the pretty boys, and every single time I left heartbroken. What you need to do is look for someone that you can still be attracted to, but you need that character. And I've taken that a little bit. I'm 22, fresh. I'm a fresh 22-year-old, under a month old, 22-year-old. But you need to look for the character in that person that you can live with.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I took least important at the time. Because I was like, fuck that. They're hot boys my age. I can do that. But
they're good. They're good for a good time for a long time.
Exactly. That's honestly the most important thing to look for.
Yeah. Literally, the whole thing is that, like, since Nate and I have, like, an open relationship and everything, basically, I'm like, obviously, I'm not going to, like, you know, go for kind of, like, obviously the ones that would be good for a long-term relationship, you know? Like, they're, like, you know, those, like, you know, big, muscly dudes that can probably throw me around, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we can do this, but I'm never gonna see you again. Sorry.
How is... I wouldn't call you out so bad. How is that relationship, that open relationship going?
It's actually going real swell. Y'all want to hear a good old story?
Yeah.
Basically, I went on a date with, by the way, I'm not straight, with a lady. And we had a great time. She was a big titty goth bitch. Great. We went to a graveyard.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and, like, had, like, some beers and, like, a picnic, basically, in a graveyard.
Dope.
It was amazing. And, like, you know, we did some stuff and whatever. I get a text and the thing is she worked in the healthcare industry, and so she had to get tested for corona every 2 weeks.
Oh.
And so she was like, the whole reason we decided to hang out and, like, you know, have this date is because she tested negative. She's like, I tested negative. We're good. And we're like, all right. Because she also had, like, health problems and whatnot, like, for her immune and everything.
Did you also take negative?
Yes, I also test negative. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's hang out. And so we did. This was Sunday. On Tuesday, I get a message from her that goes, hey, this is a bummer, but I just got a call. Turns out my negative was a false negative, and I have COVID-19. And I was like,
yeah, this was rough.
Fuck. And so I was like freaking, and it was like this whole thing. I texted everyone that I was like in contact with, like, during those, you know, 2 days and everything. And I was like, guys, just let you know, like, Holly and everything, we all got tested.
Yeah.
I quarantined. So, like, that's why also why we didn't do the podcast for a while, because I quarantined and I had to get tested and everything, and I was like freaking out.
Also, by the way, we're all negative.
We are
all good.
We've all been tested. We're all negative.
Like, that the reason why we're only doing this is because we're negative and we're not spreading.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just so everyone knows.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, I was like, okay.
You know what they say, right?
What can you do?
Sometimes the big titty goth girlfriends bite back.
You know what? That is a big fact.
Okay, so this is a funny story. So last night I made a Tinder just to tell people my hilariously bad ham sandwich joke. It's not bad. It's good. Fuck you guys.
Quality.
Fuck you guys.
I only know quality. But so the thing that's funny is, like, you know how people are like, oh, all Asian people look the same, and it's like, it's definitely a racist thing to say, and it's wrong, because when we went to Japan, nobody looked the same.
Big facts.
And but they probably all looked at us, and they were probably like, they all look the same. And so it was funny, because, like, last night, I kept being like, does this guy look familiar? It's because he looked like the last 3 guys I looked at. But there was...
They all looked the same!
They all looked
all
the
these,
same.
like, straight white guys,
They
like,
all
Mormon
looked the
guys.
same.
Yeah.
Literally all looked the exact same.
But there was one guy that I was like, this guy looks so familiar.
God.
It's Cass's cousin.
It was my fucking cousin.
Oh.
And guess who I matched with 9 minutes ago? Your cousin.
You matched with my cousin! Send him a message. Send him a message.
I don't know what to say.
The thing is, like, we're not that close. We're not super close just because of Like
families, just because you have a cousin doesn't mean you know your cousin.
no, and like the thing
Right.
is like we'd hang out a lot, but during the time where we would have gotten close was when his parents were kind of going through a divorce and all that stuff. And the thing is his dad, he's a great guy right now, but before he was kind of a dick because he was just in this really miserable relationship for the longest time, and just like that we realized that now that was the whole reason. And so I never really got that good relationship. Like, my younger siblings are really close with all my other cousins, but he's the same age as me, and we never got all that close. We're, like, kind of close, like, we'll talk and stuff like that, but not that much. He doesn't even follow me on Instagram.
Hey, I want to interrupt this because of something semi-important.
Oh.
I guess the riots downtown are turning violent.
Oh, shit.
Cop cars getting vandalized, breaking windows, buildings. They're issuing an 8 p.m. curfew and calling in the National Guard.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
In Utah?
So I don't know if that's like just downtown or what the deal is, but like
Maybe that is just down. I think that might just be downtown, because that's the whole reason that Allie was late, because she was like, I literally was stopped, and then I saw somebody flip a cop car, and there was all this smoke. That's why, before we came in, my mom, my grandma, my little sister, my aunt, all were at the protest, and I slept through my alarm, so I wasn't able to go.
That's a fucking insane.
Jesus fucking Christ. One thing is like, wait, can I see that picture again?
that's pretty serious.
That's
pretty serious.
fucking hella serious. That's what's it.
I'm trying to see if there's anyone live streaming it.
Yeah, that's
Well, I
really
wouldn't be
intense.
surprised.
That's also why, like, Bella actually texted us, like, before we started going live. Well, actually, like,
Oh, there's
while
them
we were
flipping the
starting.
car. Sorry, guys, who are watching this.
Sorry,
This is
we're like,
Oh, I love how everyone just
that
joins in.
mob mentality.
See, that's why people, when they're like, I just don't understand riots. It's like, how do you not understand riots? Because it's like, it makes
the people
sense.
are fucking pissed. Like,
People are pissed. If I was pissed, I'd start getting angry if other people were getting angry.
yeah, one thing is, like, a part of me, I understand mostly riots when, like, the police first start to, like...
Did you just pour milk on the car? That seems like a waste of milk when you know that you just flipped a cop car. You should be saving that milk for a situation later.
Oh,
But
Chief Farkey,
you
it's
live
in Salt Lake
downtown.
yeah.
Yeah, and I saw the cop car get flipped.
Yeah.
No, so I guess new news while you're in the restroom, it's
Fair.
turning more violent and they're putting an 8 p.m. curfew and calling in the National Guard. So
If you need, since you live in Salt Lake, if you need to stay at our house in Bountiful tonight before it's,
'Cause I
like,
don't know,
chill...
where does Marshall live? Does he also live in Salt Lake?
He also lives in Salt Lake. In fact, I'm gonna text him.
Yeah.
Just make sure
He's
that
good.
everything's
Yeah.
okay.
If you need to stay at our house for the time, like,
Time being.
while
just
they're
let
kind
us
of, like,
know.
you know, doing all that, if you don't want to go through there, that is totally, like, please do, because I
I
want to
think
make
KSL's
sure that you're...
down too. So there must be a lot of KSL news.
That gets down. Oh, like, I think they're probably this. Purple hair missed out. I'd stay out of the downtown. I agree, Nick
no,
Joy.
literally. the thing is when
yeah.
Allie
See, the
called
problem
us.
is I live in downtown.
Yeah.
So, like, those are your houses / you also have a cat at home.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I also have a dog at home.
Oh, yeah, your foster dog, right?
So I definitely
Need to go home.
need to go home.
Is Marshall there?
No,
I'm trying
Marshall
to-
never goes to my place.
Why?
He avoids it like the plague.
Is it because it's just definitely you?
That's a discussion for another time. I don't want to talk about that
We'll
on
have
air.
that later.
But, no, I'm super fucking worried about that.
Well, we still have technically 2 hours before curfew. Oh, but you missed it. I matched with Cass's cousin on Tinder.
She messed with my cousin. That's so funny. That's so fucking funny.
Well, because, like, the funny part is that you were like, that's my cousin, and then I was like, fuck yeah, and I super liked him. Just to be like, just to fuck with him, and then I was like, ah, shit. Cass is in, like, half of the pictures I posted on there. So now, it's he either didn't look through all my pictures,
And he was just swiping
or
right.
he's also intrigued as how I know you.
Yeah.
Should I be like, I don't even know what to say to him, so I'm like, that's fine.
You should message him and be like, I don't even know what you should say.
That's the thing, I don't even know what to say. I don't really care. It's just, like, it's funny.
So I can't remember where you said you lived, and I probably shouldn't say your address on Stream,
stream.
But I live in downtown Salt
They
Lake.
said
Yeah,
200 east and 400 south, like there's big groupings. Like that's where they're flipping vehicles, and that's pretty close to what you said.
That's pretty close to.
Yeah, no, that's 200 East. That's gonna be a problem for me. I'm gonna have to take 33rd up and then around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to park like far to.
Yeah,
like,
you
walk
also
home.
might want to make sure that your car is parked away from that issue.
Well, because then
See,
Because
I
they might
have
fuck up your car.
I have a specific parking spot in my apartment,
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
so
that's good.
that
That's
shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
The problem I'm dealing with is in that specific area. If I can drive through to get my car
Into
to
your-
my
To
apartment.
your apartment, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better to just chill while it's going on, or if it's better to try and get ahead of the crazy National Guard stuff. I don't really know.
I don't
But-
even know. Well, because if there's a curfew at 8, then you have to basically either be home at 8 or go home tomorrow. It's one
Yeah.
of those two situations. I mean, I don't have plans tonight. You want to hang out?
Yeah, I'm like, also now that, like,
honestly, I'll fucking hang out with you.
if you, the thing is if you want to stay the
I
night
haven't
tonight,
seen
so then you
y'all
can go.
in a hot second.
Yeah.
We could
so
play
like,
the
no,
Let's Judge
literally.
People on Tinder
Yeah.
game.
hey,
I'll-
I can
I-
get more drunk.
Hey.
That's what I'm
That's all
about.
I care about. Just
I'm-
how tipsy I am by the end of the night.
I'm also like, the thing is, I had plans with like these girls that I used to like go dance with and all that stuff for tonight, and since that's going on, I'm probably gonna use that as an excuse to be like, hey, I
some
can't
shit
exactly,
popping off.
yeah, I can't exactly
Yeah.
come over right now. I'm just gonna stay home because also I am a very much like a homebody, and so I was like already trying to figure out ways to get out of it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, this is perfect. Let's all just get drunk at my house.
How was being a go-go dancer? Was it
Oh,
enjoyable or?
It's fun. It's super. I get paid. The thing is it's great because I get paid basically just to be eye candy, and it's
Oh, sorry.
awesome because then I just get to hang out like up with the DJ and everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll get like free drinks and whatnot, and we just kind of like dance whenever we want. We do. The one thing that does kind of suck is when we actually like have to take signs for like somebody's birthday or if they're like VIP or something like that, and we do like these rounds where like we have to go around to be like, you know, woo, and then take pictures with everybody and whatnot to kind of like promote the
Yeah.
club.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is I'll do it usually when they need like coverage, because the girls that I was hanging out with, they're like the main girls who are there every
Yeah.
single weekend, and whenever they need like a third, because they usually need like a third person, but they're really bad at calling people. But apparently I am their favorite.
Ooh.
And so they were like talking about how they miss like dancing at the club and all that stuff because it was good extra money. Because I got paid about like $100 for about like 3 hours.
That's yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so it was an awesome side weekend job that I
Yeah.
would just get extra cash for. And so they asked me, they're like, oh yeah, no, you want to drink with us? Like, we miss you too. And I was like, this is a great way for me to get back in. Once all this shit opens back up, then I'll get extra cash because, you know, the economy be really whack right now. And it kind of is spooky. So I want that
Yeah.
extra money. But with all this going on, I'm like, ugh. But they're all like, everybody in the club life sucks you in. The thing
That's what I've
is,
heard.
yeah, all of like the bodyguards and all of that stuff were talking to me, and they're like, "Oh, you're new," and I was like, kind of ish. They moved locations to like a bigger club, and I was like, I did dancing at their old club, which was like smaller, definitely, and they asked me to come back, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, oh yeah, no, he's like, I was a bodyguard for a while, and then I was like, no, I can't do this anymore, like it's a lot because it's like late hours, like you're there till probably like 2 a.m.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And he was like, but then, you know, they ask me and it just sucks you right back in because it just stays interesting. And it's
That's-
just kind of fun.
Yeah. I know a couple
So fun.
bouncers who just do it because it's like they don't necessarily need the income, but on
Mhm.
the weekends it's like
Why not?
it's always something weird going
Yeah,
on. you
some
know?
weird shit, and like you get pretty close to everybody, and like I don't know. It's funny because I'm I'm basically like the token white girl because it's a Latin club.
Oh shit.
So I dance at the white Latin club, and I am the only like white girl there, and they're like, the guy who like hired me is always like, I'm sorry you don't understand any music or you don't speak Spanish, and I was like, honestly, as long as it's got a good beat, I will dance to it. I was like, I don't mind. He's like, that's what I want to hear.
You win.
You win.
The only time, like, I feel like clubs where it's, like, the lyrics matter is when you're doing, like, kind of like a rave club where it's, like, you want the bangers. Because I remember, was it Vegas or Halloween night where they had that Leave Me Alone song that's like, Leave Me Alone.
Yeah.
And it's, like they had that song, but no one was really paying attention to the song except when, like, the one
part comes
Leave
out.
Me Alone. And then, like, everyone got excited because then the music stopped, so everyone sings it.
Yeah.
But it's, like, at the same time, like, no one's paying attention to fucking lyrics at a club.
Yeah.
They're wanting a good beat.
Yeah, we're wanting a good beat.
That's why a lot of, like, the songs that are, like, they have, like, those stop, everyone sings kind of moments is because they're also remixed to take out some of the lyrics to give a bumping beat.
Yeah.
You bitch ass hoe, you a Dr. Pepper this whole time.
Well, regular Dr. Pepper.
No, my drink is full.
I just don't like...
My drink is
okay. This one time... I went to
again.
I went to Cass's house. This is when she lived with Blake and Kyle. Or she lived in
with
different other people.
This random gay couple.
Her the first place she ever lived outside of her parents' house was this couple.
Ooh, that ass.
But she
twerked
had
for us.
all she had to drink for chasers was Diet Dr. Pepper, and all we had for liquor was raspberry vodka, which then made me almost puke. I didn't puke, but it turned my stomach so bad that I was like, I can never drink Diet Dr. Pepper or raspberry flavored vodka ever again. And that's why I have such a hard time with flavored vodkas, because I can't stomach it. It's too artificial for me, and like, especially raspberry.
Fair.
And that's why I can't even drink Diet Dr. Pepper anymore, because it literally makes me almost throw up.
I grew up on Diet Dr. Pepper. My mom was like, hey, soda's cool, but not the sugar, so let's go diet.
That's how
So
my dad
I-
was with Pepsi for some reason.
I grew up on Diet Dr. Pepper. So whatever it's mixed with, I'm like, oh yeah, I can fucking take this. But also flavored vodka gives
rough.
me such a gag reflex.
Oh, I can't
Yeah.
shoot flavored vodka unless it's like slight. Like, I can do lemon
Oh,
or
I
lime
can't.
somewhat because it's a little bit more natural, but I still, like, I almost throw up literally.
Flavored anything makes me gag for a while if I take a shot straight. See,
I'm a pussy. I don't like shots. Me and Allie talk
same.
about this a
Yeah,
lot.
no, I'm
It's
not a
hard.
shot fan. I'm much more of a like mixed drink. Give me any beer, I will down it in 5 minutes flat. Shots, nah, not for me.
I will down six mixed drinks, and then I can do shots because, like, for some reason, I'm a pussy stomach.
I get it.
It is what it is.
Same. I have to ease my stomach into it. Like, hey, yes, I'm poisoning you, but hey, guess
But
what?
hey.
There's also these other flavors.
Yes.
Like, I know
So
you
you're
like Dr.
okay
Pepper.
for it
Yeah.
You're like,
until I'm too drunk
And then you're like,
for my
whatever.
stomach to listen to me, and then it's like fucking fine.
That's literally like how my stomach is, because I've only thrown up once from drinking, and that was only because I started crying, and when I started crying, and then all my liquor came back up because I was crying, because I was trying, I would low-key, this is an embarrassing story, I started crying at a bar, but I didn't want people to know that I was that white girl crying in a bar,
Happens.
so I was in the bar, and I was quietly crying, and when you quietly cry and you're like holding it back, that's what turned my stomach, and I was just like, bleh.
No, I feel like if you get that, like hyperventilate cry, it's just
Yeah.
gonna bleh.
Well, that's
See.
because of what it was. It was like, I wasn't like, it was, I won't say what it was. I'll tell you afterwards because it's a funny story. And especially because, anyways, I don't want to even say what I was crying about because if he found out, it would be bad. And I don't want to talk about it.
Fair.
But the only reason I've never thrown up from drinking. The only time I have is because I started crying. But I've cried drunk before. It's because I was having that hyperventilation because I was trying so hard not to be that girl. I still was, because then I was telling Cass why I was crying, and then some girl at the club was like, "Girl, relatable, cry it out." And I was like,
Relatable.
"I'm gonna tell you the story after. You're gonna have a
Okay.
good giggle
Relatable
I-
content.
about why I was
Relatable
crying in the
content.
bathroom."
puked more while drinking than I can remember. And it is strictly because I started heavily drinking when I was like 14. So I got into it. I remember this one Halloween party. I remember a quarter of this night, maybe, but I literally pissed myself.
Oh, that's rough.
It was one of the, dare I say, the drunkest I've ever been. And I just kept drinking. And then since that night, I just kept fucking drinking. Because I was young and I had some issues to deal with my childhood. So obviously, I became a teenage alcoholic. But
Trauma.
now I'm to the point where I know exactly where my limit is, and just before that, I will actually, even especially at a bar, I will go into the bathroom and make myself throw up, because I'm like, no, I don't want to be that girl tonight, so I will make myself vomit and then keep drinking.
The tactical plunder.
Yeah,
exactly.
Boot and rally.
Bootin' and rallying.
Boot and rally.
Boot and rally. Boot and rally. Boot and rally.
We
Okay.
have a many of guy friends that will
Do
just
that.
will literally just be gone
Specifically.
for 20 minutes and they're like, who wants more shots?
And
then
then,
you're
like,
like, what the? They're like,
Because they
where'd
go
you
and like, what?
yeah, they go,
What?
and they're like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
We're back.
Literally.
Okay, but let's talk about this
book!
book some more.
Oh my god, yes.
Okay, so
We covered guts, and we got
Covered
into
guts.
Miss America.
Miss America, Mother Nature.
Ooh.
Here's the thing that
That's
I
my
have
thing.
to say with Mother Nature, and it's a prevalent theme throughout the book. The book, yeah, white chicks.
White chicks.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That's a
That
fact.
We
is
make
us.
it interesting, if nothing else.
We make it.
And interesting is the only adjective I use.
I feel
Wait.
like drunk girls can get away with
What is that
anything.
fucking word? Adjective?
Objective.
No, an adjective.
Adjective.
Adjective. Objective.
Conjunction
Objective.
function.
Conjunction function.
Adjective.
I don't care what anyone says. Still a bop in 2020.
Honestly,
Hey.
Shamax.
But, that's the only word I can use to make it not shameful. So we're interesting. Yeah, basic ass white bitches.
That's all that matters.
Honestly, it'd be like that sometimes, but it's a good time.
It's a good
But,
time.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where I started.
Mother
Mother
Nature.
But Mother Nature. So the
White chick.
theme
Mother Nature.
throughout that story that I think is prevalent through all of the other stories is you don't know, like, especially with money, you get all of that, and then she makes a point to say she didn't have time to spend it all.
Yes.
And she went through, like, stockbrokers, through her pimp,
yeah.
her
That was the
pimp.
reflexology. one,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yes.
That,
Yes, so she was a reflexologist, and there's this, and it's, some of it is true, some of
Yeah.
it is fiction, but
Sorry.
there's, in this fictional story, you can massage the foot in a way that makes someone climax to the core in the way that they will be in bed for 3 days because they've just shat themselves through the encore of the climax. It's
Basically the
that
best.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Hella nut.
Hella nut. But she goes through the experience of being a professional reflexologist and then that industry growing to the point where there's so many of the reflexologists, she doesn't make any money and she wasted all of her money, and she makes a point to say she never went shopping. She never got anything for herself other than like her uniform of the fur coat.
Yeah.
And they're looking like a bougie ass bitch.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a point in the overall book of like you make all of this money and you never have a chance to use it
To enjoy it.
because you're just always locked into this career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always working.
Well, that's like one thing I fear most is that I'll find a job that I love, but I work so hard that I never have a personal life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why always my biggest fear, like working too much. Like, what is
Yeah.
too much? Too much?
Well, and I definitely, I don't know. I've always had this weird outlook that I've never really been a material guy. Like, there's things that I want, right? Like, I think everyone wants things because they're cool or nice looking, but I've just never really cared about status, especially when it's status from items, because I just think, like, I would rather, like, you like me because of my brain, not because I drive a Lambo.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people who get the Lambos and stuff like that, I respect it because they must have hustled unless it was gave to them, right? Like, they must have fucking put in the work. And that's very respectable, but at the same time, like, I've always wanted to carry myself as someone who, like, is appreciated because of my input, not because of, like, hey, I could take all you guys on a cruise right now. Because, like, is that really, like,
Are those
genuine?
Yeah.
Or are you guys just here because, like, I fucking bring the fucking
Are those
money?
true friends?
Yeah. Are they real friends?
And, you know, I definitely think that's a good point is, and I know people in my professional life who work hundreds of hours every week, like overtime, and they got this fat stack of cash just sitting there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Worked. What'd you do? Where you got any plans next weekend? Working. Like, how long do you keep that cycle going before you realize, like, well, I got this stockpile of money. What am I going to do with it?
That's literally so my whole entire goal in life. I know that everybody, like, it's like the American dream or whatever, where you, like, want to be successful, you know. And, like, the thing is like, it's my goal to be successful just for the fact of, like, I don't want to work until I die.
Yeah, me too.
And so that is my whole reasoning of it. And, like, also I just want to, like, you know, I want to be able to travel and all that. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
And it's like that I want to make, you know, that goal a reality. And so that's what has made me, also just because I've been working since I was, like, 11 years old, basically. I'm just, like, a very big workaholic because that's just kind of how I was raised. And I don't even realize until it's too late that I'll be, like, burning myself out with work. And that's why I had to get a job that literally forces me to not do stuff a lot. And it's frustrating. But the thing is, I know it's for, like, you know, it's better for my health in general. And so it's like, okay.
I also want to play devil's advocate to myself with the materialistic thing. Because, like, I talk about, I don't think material items really make people happy. But on the flip side of it, I think materialism creates a purpose. Because, like, if we sit back and think about money as a whole, like, we're forced to have to generate it and make money if we want to live in a comfortable society. So I really think that if your goal is material items, that is still respectable, because you're giving yourself some sort of purpose to work towards instead of just working because we have to.
Yeah. My mom explained this to me at once I graduated high school. She sat me down and she said there were two very distinctive groups of people to be happy. One is that you enjoy your career and you put your all into it and you can feel satisfied through your life. In the weekend, in your family, those moments count. And then there are the other people who still feel very satisfied in their life, but they work the job that they don't necessarily enjoy, which is totally fine. It's to make money, to live the life that you want on post-work, on weekends, to do what you want. And those are the two pathways to happiness, where you can enjoy your work or not enjoy your work, but that post time is most important.
See, no, I agree with that completely, because
I want to hear your thoughts, because that was such a facial expression.
Oh, no, I was like, we read West Check Snap.
Yeah, sorry, no, that
and
wasn't to what you were saying, because I agree 100%.
Yeah,
that was to what he was saying, because
And also, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I was saying, because, like, I agree with you completely, because, like, that's the thing that, like, that's, like, really frustrating, because, like, my ex would be like, you have to have a purpose in life to like, he's like, what's the point of life if you don't have a purpose? And I was like, I agree with that completely. But, like, there's, like, I feel like an extreme to a non-extreme. Because, like, his purpose was music and doing XYZ. But the thing is, him doing that was taking away from the fact that he's like, well, I don't want to own a dead-end job because the XYZ, I don't want to, like, work here, I don't want to do this because I only want to do this one thing. But it's like, but with him doing that, he would make himself in a miserable situation outside of his purpose, that it's like, if you would just kind of sacrifice yourself a little bit to work a job that you, like, you don't, no one loves, no one, if everyone had a choice, no one would fucking work. Everyone would just do what the fuck they want.
Yeah, do what they want to do.
And that's why it would always frustrate me, because it's like, do you think I want to go work at my job? I love my job. But it doesn't mean that there's some days where I'm like, I just want to fucking call in sick. Or I just want to quit today. Like,
Yeah.
But I would never do that because I do love my job. But it's like, just because, and like, my purpose isn't to have a job and be happy in my job fully. I mean, like, I hope I love my job, but like, it frustrated me because, like, just because you have a purpose in life or this is your goal in life doesn't mean you don't have to do the side hustle of working a shitty job to get to that goal. That's the thing that's, like, I feel like some people also then take the extreme of, like, I just want this to happen in my life, and then they don't work for it.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's why...
Like, why isn't this happening to
I think
me?
that goes
should
right
deserve
back to the
it.
main core of the story, is being wanting someone to come and save you, when in
Yeah.
reality you have to put in the work.
Yeah, kind of like you
Exactly.
feel like you deserve all of this stuff.
Yeah.
just
That's
for,
why
like,
I'm
things
still doing
happening to
podcast
you.
stuff going into 3 years.
Yeah.
Because, like, if I stop, like...
Then, it's
Then, like,
done.
what was it for?
What if the next week we do a stream and then, like, Chuck Palahniuk looks at this and he
He's
sees
like,
that
"Hell
I,
yeah!"
he sees that I tagged him on Twitter and he
But-
re-tags it, like he re
Yeah.
Chuck
Yeah.
Palahniuk, if you ever see this podcast,
We love you.
literally, I would suck your dick. I love you so much, and I just hope you appreciate
I'm
that.
gonna send it to him.
Actually, I'm like,
Please
please
do.
send it to him.
Like,
Give him a good old tag.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey,
Hope
what's
you,
up, Chuck?
What are you up to this Thursday?
And that's the thing
Little
about
Thursday
it is
afternoon.
that, like, the thing that would frustrate me is that, like, you don't have to give up your dream,
No.
but if,
Yeah.
because, like, the thing is, if your dream's not going to be happening in this moment and something else is making you so miserable in life, why don't you fix the thing that's miserable in your life to then get
Yes.
yourself out of the situation, to then focus on this? Like, yeah, so what? You have to give up 8 hours of your day for, like, even if you only worked a part-time job and you gave up 8 hours of a day, 4 days a week, even 3 days a week, but then you can always focus on this on the side. Like, why can't you?
Yeah.
I never understood. That was one thing I could never understand. I was like, why can't you just do both
I
to
feel
make
like
yourself the most max happy?
Yeah.
in a lot of other places, we live in USA, Utah.
Utah.
But in a lot of places around the country, the minimum work week,
It was like
4 days.
hourly, is a lot less.
Yeah.
But we don't live there. We live in Utah, in America. And that's to make money, to live, to see your dreams come through, because you said earlier, money talks.
Mm-hmm.
You need
Money talks.
money to do basically anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to make that. And it's understandable that you wouldn't be completely satisfied with your job. It's understandable that you wouldn't be satisfied with your job at all.
Mhm.
But it serves a point.
Yeah,
I think-
it doesn't even have to be about satisfaction of having a job. It's the satisfaction of you're doing something to then make yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mindset,
a
honestly,
mindset.
because, like,
Everyone's different.
you know, I get where he's coming from, right? Because in his head, his sacrifice is, I'm going to be miserable to try and achieve this thing. Where another person, like, for me, example, I sacrifice time that I can dedicate to this so my life doesn't fall apart without having a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I balance it, is I have to work in order to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and both
Sacrifices.
both perspectives aren't
Sacrifices.
wrong, but if you want to be successful in any aspect, I feel like you have to make a sacrifice somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And that could be, I mean, there used to be that triangle thing of, like, when you're in college, right? It's like either I can do sleep and be social and my grades are shit, or I can sleep and have good grades but I don't have social, or I can have social and good grades and not sleep. There's always, like, no matter what aspect of life you're in, there's something that you're sacrificing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, to expect, like, to not sacrifice anything but also achieve what you want, that's very arrogant. I'm not saying it's not possible, but you're going to really have to have those dice
also
rolling for
very
you. You know?
arrogant.
Yeah, literally.
And I feel like that is also, I feel like such an old traditional mindset when I say this.
Yeah.
But I also feel like the future generation, including the generation that is in high school and junior high right now, are very unrealistic because there has been a lot of hardship pressed on generations
Oh, yeah. Easy.
that are not necessarily our hardship, but
Yeah.
they've been pressed on. So the next generation tries to rebel and be like, hey, you can be anything. You can have everything you want. And it doesn't even necessarily have to try to get this. And
Well,
that's so wrong
and
because we have to
yeah.
take a realistic approach.
Yeah, because
And
especially with, like, social media and stuff like that.
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
say.
and I feel like
It's in my paper.
Yeah. It's in my paper.
No, I'm going to print it out. 10 pages.
the
Nice.
generation that's out right now has the best mind views. They have the most inclusive, not racist, not homophobic.
Well, they're the epitome
But-
of everything we're trying to accomplish.
Exactly,
Yeah,
but at
that's
the
why I'm
same
excited for my
time,
kids.
Yeah.
it's very unrealistic with their approach to working. Because they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can accomplish my dream whenever. I don't even have to work hard for it. And that's not true.
I think where the
That's-
other thing, too, that with
it's
social
very
media...
over-coddled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the social media gives that aspect, too, in a negative light, where, like, okay, we look at who's popular right now. Gary Vee on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Does all the, like, business stuff, right?
Oh,
He-
I see him on my For You page all the time. And
I-
I'm like, I don't even follow you. Who are you?
Yeah.
I like his outlook on business, but his whole point of view is like, hey, you don't need to do the standardized ways to make money. You can do it this way, and this way.
Yeah.
And I agree with him. That is 100% possible. And we live in a generation now where you can make money not conventionally. And you can make
Yes.
a lot of it.
You can make a lot of it.
Yes.
But at the same time, people need to be realistic with themselves. Like, am I that guy? Or do I need to stay conventional and
Yeah.
do what is there that I know could get me to a position?
Big facts,
Yes.
Nick Joy. That's how you make money.
That's how I would.
Hey! Okay.
Hell yeah. Hell
Nick
yeah.
Joy may be my favorite commenter of all time.
Well, I like.
Might just be
He's
the
a good fella.
moment, but like
I mean, I haven't
Nick
seen
Joy.
Trump is all in a while.
Yeah,
but you
where's
have.
Trump is all?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Also, Salty Frank.
Yeah, salty.
Salty
Where
Frank's
is
so
Salty?
cute.
Okay,
But
Nick
we
Joy,
love you.
I'll hit you the fuck
Make
up.
you
Make me
famous.
famous.
Nick Joy's an
I wanna
OG
be
of the
famous.
stream too. Like, he's been a mod for the channel for
Oh
like
yeah, no, because
years
I think
He
he
was
has me on
early.
Snapchat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know
Wait,
you.
but-
I know you, boy.
Well, and I think it's hard too
I'm gonna
with
add you
with like
to
TikTok and,
Snapchat.
um,
McJoy.
Nick Joy.
Send
Before
Boy.
you start that, I
you
will also
Snapchat.
say, because I love Nick Joy, his voice.
Yeah,
an
when he
intro
sends
for
me
us?
video Snapchat, sometimes and I'm like, there we go.
And his dog,
There we
Maximus
go.
Tiberius
Yes!
the third, I think. Esquire, the third.
Esquire?
He's the boy.
He's
Your
the
dog
boy.
is so cute. I
He's
have
the
you on Snap. I
motherfucking
had you.
boy.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Okay, yes, you send me snaps sometimes, specifically of your dog, and I love them. Keep sending them. Yes,
sending
Maximus Tiberius the Third Esquire.
Yes.
Great.
But I
Holy
think-
shit. I might know the people who flipped over the cop car.
Oh! Let's not name them on the street.
Yeah.
But
Not gonna say their names.
Hey, strong
But-
forearms.
strong.
Be like, hey, I watched that video of you flipping a cop car. Can you help me taking my groceries?
One
I
trip. One trip.
One trip.
But what I was going with that is I feel like it's really hard with social media too because I mean like fucking like what the kombucha girl, she made one video about trying kombucha and now she's fucking famous.
Yeah.
She is
But,
so
like,
fucking funny.
Oh no,
though.
she deserves it. But like it's just like
She's hilarious.
but like people at the Hype House,
Oh, that's fucking stupid.
like they just got famous because they know people that know people, and then because they can dance somewhat subpar.
And that they're like, conventionally attractive, like high
Yeah.
schoolers.
E-girl.
E-girls.
Yeah.
E-boy
E-girls
and
and
E-girl.
boy e-girls.
More like visco girls, but to like a more preppy standpoint, so they're not
Yeah.
too visco-y, but then the e-boys that aren't too e-boy, but they're like still e-boys.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a good balance, but I feel like that's what like is so hard, and I'm kind of also then worried about like our kids' generation is because of
Yeah.
like they see how easy it is for someone to get famous like that, and then they expect it because like adding on to like.
Tell me what is happening.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Bitch. We just hear, bitch? You flipped over a cop car?
You didn't tell me?
Wait,
Straight up, I want the insider info. What the fuck?
That's
I mean,
Thought
if
we were
get
best
that insider
friends.
info, like,
You put it
you
here.
know what? You know what? Exclusive.
we
Now,
won't say the names though. but-
TikTok is a very interesting thing in our lives now because TikTok can literally take any person
and make them huge.
and make them huge. And I
Yeah.
think that that's scary because there's a lot of people who that's not healthy for.
Yeah.
It really
Definitely.
isn't.
Well, and also, being socially famous doesn't always be benefit for you.
No.
Do you remember? I think it's Funhouse or Rooster Teeth. Gavin.
Yeah.
Gavin and his cosplayer girlfriend, literally.
Shout out
Oh.
to Meg Turney.
Meg Turney, we think you're very beautiful and smart.
You are so
But-
hot. Please, can I see your titties?
But literally, like, they were at home one night, heard someone break in, hid in a closet. This guy was literally coming in to kill Gavin, steal his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's fucking
That's
terrifying.
what it's like. That's why it's also terrifying also too, because then when you are this social and you are in the media, people know you and then they become crazy.
Well,
about
I'll
you.
give you guys
Yeah.
an insider thing that I haven't talked about on the stream
Ooh,
Um,
insider.
that is kind of relevant
Insider.
to that. And I'm not going to give my opinions on it necessarily, but there was someone who was watching the stream fairly early on, and he became, like, he was there every stream and he enjoyed it and different things like that, and he added me on like socials and stuff, and he started talking to me, and then he started saying like really
Like creepy things or like.
no, but like self-harmful things,
Oh.
and like putting me in the situation of like
If you don't help him, you're scared he's gonna like hurt himself.
Yeah.
and like I'm all for trying to help people, but with stuff like this you have to remember that
I'm a person.
we're all just individuals, and like putting that on someone, like I felt like almost obligated to like be there for him because he's watching,
Yeah.
but at the same time like I shouldn't have to feel that way. And the Gavin and Meg Turney thing is like the peak of craziness, right? Because
Yeah.
that person turned into
Sociopath.
yeah, that person turned into so like he probably watched everything she did and like probably on streams and was like,
yeah, it definitely was
oh,
like.
will you talk to me? And like
Yeah.
maybe he got interaction because like when you stream, it's so easy to interact.
Yeah, especially kind of like I mean in the stages that we are where it's just kind of like that's the fun in it is like I was even telling Nate just kind of like, well, I mean like sure, like if we ever got big that'd be awesome, but also I would definitely miss kind of like the interaction where it's like
It's
we're able
more
to
intimate.
yeah, it's more intimate, and like you would be able to talk to every single person who like actually comments and watches, and like it's actually a little more fun. But the thing is once you get bigger and once you like maybe comment on like one person's thing, they're like
Yeah, and I definitely think that women have it much worse because I think that lonely men are much more susceptible to like taking the attention that they get from an attractive woman and making it
like entitlement almost to like let's
Like you are mine now.
and making
let's
it like
do
this big thing in their head.
Yeah.
And whether it be sexual or just the fact that they don't get attention from women, so now this is like something they've craved, then I think that's when it turns into idolizing and making like, especially like in a
Yeah.
Meg Turney situation, right? Because I think we'd all agree Meg Turney's very attractive.
Yeah.
She's
real hot.
cool. She gets the nerds. She's a nerd. So like
She gets that vibe.
yeah, that environment where, no offense to fellow nerds, but like there's a lot of nerds who are lonely and don't get a lot of attention from
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
So when you get someone on that level, starts giving you even like a slight attention, I think that just piques it, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that I can't even imagine the things that they hear on a daily basis if they even open up their DMs. I remember, was it Jessica Negri or someone talked about opening up her Twitter DMs, and it was like 100 just dick pics, just every dick pic you could think of.
I also don't understand the what satisfaction you get from sending your dick to a woman who didn't ask for your dick pic, because listen, dicks are not attractive, and I also don't think vaginas are attractive, so that's why I don't send out my vagina into the world.
I've always wondered the dick pic thing too, because like I almost wonder if it works and we just don't hear about it working.
I think it works in some cases. Cass has the most experience. I've never received an unsolicited dick pic before.
I see. Oh, sorry.
Knocking on wood. I've never received one, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna claim the experience of getting the most unsolicited dick pics.
Oh, you might. I don't know. We've never talked about it, so.
Yeah. I'm compete with you.
Compete with me with unsolicited dick pics.
It's a title neither of us wants to win.
No, literally, like, dick pics always, like, I mean, I know for a fact that I have a few in my DMs right now that I just haven't deleted yet. Because, like, you know, you go to it, and then it's just kind of like, this image, is, like, specifically on Instagram, it's like, this image is blurred because of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I know that.
Because it could be inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly. There was one thing, though, where it's like, oh, that it actually works and you don't know it. There is one time that actually, I mean, it didn't get him puss. It didn't give him puss. That's a fact. But I did definitely keep him on Snap so that occasionally when they were tasteful. They were videos specifically. Don't send dick pics. Send either, you know, nut vids or
what
like
that booty look like though.
Literally.
Let me sneak past you really quick. I'm gonna go give.
Yeah. Oh, her mug?
Yeah.
Well, show Allie her mug. The mug. It's so cute.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, show the mug.
With you
Oh, she wants to meet Bieber.
I want to meet Bieber.
Yeah,
right.
literally.
We'll run the podcast.
Oh, we'll run. Hello, it's now the Palahniuk'S
Talk about dick pics. Anyways, what was the best dick pic you've ever seen?
Oh yeah, so basically it was a video. He would send it on
nude.
occasional, and it was actually like pretty good. And so the thing is I would like see it and I'd just be flattered that I got it. And I'd be like, oh, okay. But I never answered him because I don't know, I was just kind of like, I'd see it and I'd be like, oh, cool. And then I wouldn't answer. So eventually Anna added me. But yeah. I've gotten some that I'm just kind of like, I got one recently where before he sent one, do you remember that? Where I showed it.
He had his like dick covered, but it was like everything else. So I was like,
it was tasteful. And I messaged back, and I was like, you know what? That was a very tasteful picture.
Nude.
You know, it was a tasteful nude. And he was like, thanks. And like that's basically like the extent of the conversation. Then I got it. Was it last night or was it a couple nights ago?
I think it was last night because then I saw his penis.
Yeah. Then I got a picture last night from him and I opened it and it had his penis in it. And then I commented and I was like, that was a little less tasteful. That was, you know, that was a few bars down. And then I had to block him because the thing is like unsolicited specifically is just kind of like, it catches you off guard and you don't really want to see it, especially if you're not in that intimate relationship in the first place. Like you both aren't on the same page of where you can send nudes to each other.
Yeah, because I personally have never sent nudes to someone that I wasn't either like dating or in a relationship with, because it's not that I wouldn't send like a nude, but it's just something like, for me personally, I don't know that person. I don't want them to have my nudes unless I've had that relationship with them. / if they were like, I've just never received an unsolicited dick pic, so I don't really have a lot of opinions on it. But I do know if I got one, I would be like, ugh.
Yeah. No,
mostly
honestly.
not because it's a dick, but because like no one wants. It's like getting like something. It's just so unexpected and it's so unnecessary, and it's like, what does this do?
Yeah. No. Honestly, the point of sending nudes. I'm a person who will send nudes on occasion and stuff. Like, sometimes I'll send stuff just because in the moment I'm like, I mean, when I take it, like I'll have I have like a little like
your nudes are super hot.
Yeah, I have some that I have saved specifically that I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, hell yeah, that's hot. And so when I want, some validation, some good old validation, usually I'm like drunk and like, wanting to get some, I'll send some. But then after that moment, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't believe I have sent that. I can't believe we have done this and had this interaction. Apologies. And then usually I will block them because that's my automatic reaction.
Good night.
Bye, queens. Raw plate.
Raw plate.
Raw plate.
It's raw.
You know what? That plate is real raw.
Real raw.
Real raw.
See, the thing is, because I kind of like sexting because I like the idea of someone else being it's more of like a.
It's fun.
I like when other people get off. It sounds so like perverted.
I like the idea of getting someone else off is actually very satisfying.
Because you're like I'm being able to make this person horny or like it's more of like a power thing, I guess, in a way, but like I'm trying to make it sound like it's not pervy and that way people don't be like, can you get me off? It's not that. It's more like I find a power in it in a sense. But like not that I'm like power hungry. It's very complicated trying to explain without sounding weird about it. But like that's why like with relationships, I love sending nudes to my boyfriend / even if I'm just casually dating a person.
It's fun.
I think it's so fun because then they get excited, and then when you get to meet in person and actually like do, it's so much better because you like had that anticipation.
Yeah, that kind of like build up.
I get it. Like because like even if I don't post nudes, but if I post like something where I'm like a lot of people. Because like when I got the Tinder, I posted a picture of me in like this bikini that has like cow print. Almost every person has been like, I fucking love your the
cow print.
The one guy with the nice ass,
with the mustache. Oh, he's been to Japan 3 times. No, wait, he lived for 3 years. He's great, and he had a great ass. He had a picture of him like against a wall, and we were like, now this is a man.
Like if he didn't have like swim trunks on, that would have been a tasteful nude.
Yeah.
It literally, I'll show you the position. It was like this, but like a man's ass. So it was really nice.
It was great.
But like it's just like the validation of like it's just more like it's nice when someone tells you you're pretty.
Yeah.
It never hurts to be called pretty,
Never hurts to be called pretty.
But it's like
and also the thing is like usually I think it's kind of like, far-fetched when guys expect to get nudes from girls they don't even know, and they're like, let's trade. Sometimes girls are into that, but I definitely have never done that without somebody that I already have an established relationship with. We're talking about trading nudes, and that kind of like, I specifically either want no contact with them whatsoever, and it's just kind of like, that like on-the-moment horny thing, or you have an established relationship where like you guys kind of do that, and then you kind of like don't talk about it later on.
See?
I don't know how it is for everybody else.
I'm an asshole. So, I 100%, there was this guy, it's my fave, there are multiple men, but, this one guy, I specifically ask for specific weird requests in order to send nudes. Like, I'll be like, hey, get me a fucking picture of a puppy, and I'll send you a nude. Or like, hey, get me a picture of you riding a unicycle with flowers, and I'll give you a nude. And there are those kind of relationships, and then there are the relationships where I like just text to instigate nudes.
Yeah,
because he wants to send them, because he's like, hey, what are you doing? Are you in a private place right now?
You're like,
what if I send a picture? And I'll be like, yeah, send it to me, baby. And then I'll show it to all of my friends.
See, that's
because all women do this. Yeah. You have to understand.
If you send a dick pic, the thing is, I've never got a solicited dick pic, but I've almost seen, not all of them because you get so many, but I've seen a majority. Every time Cassie like got a dick pic, I'm like, can I just see? Because I'm genuinely curious.
No, yeah, I'll just be like, usually if I see it, I like want to, I like announce it.
You're like,
and I'm I have gotten a nude.
Same.
And then people are like,
yes,
oh, really?
We want a nude dick pic.
And then I'll show. I mean, if you want to, but the thing is,
but you have to send it to us.
Nick Joy, send me a fucking dick pic. I need your Snapchat.
I don't want Snapchat.
Do you have a small hat?
Is it okay if she adds you? I'm assuming it is.
But, like, the thing is, I would never be mad if someone sent me a nude that was, like, a joke nude. Like, if a guy, like, I just want it to be a thing that a guy does.
Hey, it's fine. Let me get that.
I would love for a guy to be, like...
I'm trying to...
like, do, like, a funny dick pic.
No,
I think those are
back
great.
up.
You're talking about wiener art?
We just talked about dick pics and soliciting all the
Oh, yeah, it's
time been gone.
So it's that one underneath.
Don't say it
Yeah, I
out
won't
loud.
say it out loud.
I shouldn't have, I feel like I shouldn't have worn a dress because I feel like it's just a lot.
Just flashing your coochie everywhere. How dare you, Holly?
I feel like someone would have said so. I feel like
The best place for
welcome
whale
to
watching.
Norway. Woo!
Woo! Whale watching!
I actually always wanted to go to Norway.
Yeah.
Actually, that sounds like a lot of fun.
See
If we
that-
ever went to Norway, could we visit you?
Can we visit
Okay.
you?
Nick
Norway.
Joyce? Nick Joy.
Nick Joy.
I want to say Nick Joy so badly, but Nick Joy, I added you. Fucking add me back. You bitch ass hoe.
You bitch ass hoe.
Oh, he added me.
Oh, yay! It was almost instant. Maybe this is the wrong person. If it is, I'm so sorry.
You dead.
Rates are 100. Oh, okay, there we go.
Ooh. Ooh.
My name is Angie. We have officially. We were talking
That a
mostly about dick
bitch.
pics.
Yeah.
And the fact that Allie will do this thing where she's like, she asks for it. She's like, if you give me a picture of you on a unicycle with some flowers, I'll give you a nude. Kind of like how it's like a very power thing. And I was
Right.
like talking about how either I don't want any relationship with them at all. Like, I'll like, we'll kind of do this real quickly and then we'll never talk again. Or you have an established relationship where it's kind of like, that's what you do on occasion.
Right.
Just for funsies, you know? You know?
Farkey, I don't know.
Oh my god, that's the cutest dog.
I don't know if I'm gonna commit to that. That's
That's
there's
too
some.
much.
So Farkey is
Ugh.
someone that I game with, and we have there's a Discord for the group of people we game with, and there's a gentleman in that Discord who his name is Gallister,
Oh.
and he finds just some of the worst possible things you can find on the internet.
Oh no.
Yeah. Some of it, like, because like I can look at shit and be like, yeah,
You're like,
okay.
all right.
some
yeah.
of the stuff in there, I was like, I'm gonna think about that all day. Great.
I know that you're like, maybe that's not the best idea. I am now intrigued, and I kind of want
We
to
can afterwards,
afterwards.
because I don't.
Is it like?
Yeah.
Like, you could probably find mine. I bet you could find my parents probably, but also the thing is I have to warn you, if you look up try to look up my address sort of stuff. My dad may be a Russian spy. We are not for sure.
I wouldn't
He
be
sees his IP was tagged, and he's like,
He's like, no, literally,
you told me
does
about
some
one of the things that he did do, and I thought that was very interesting.
He does some, the thing is he's like, I don't do anything illegal.
Right.
It's not necessarily illegal. But,
A facilitator.
yeah, it's not even like a facility, it's like, it just does things where it's like, it's not, I don't know how to explain it, but he does a lot of stuff. He's probably the most interesting man that I know. Which is, a lot saying that kind of like, oh, it's my dad, who's the most, but, he definitely, for fun, what he does in his free time, because, when, people get older and stuff like that, and they can't really sleep all the time, what he does is he goes and helps people, in the life. So, people who are drug addicts and stuff like that, he will specifically go, ask them if they need lawyers, help them get into rehab and detox, and, all of this stuff, just because he finds it very interesting, and he wants to help.
I'm glad he does his power for good and not
Yeah, no,
evil.
he does it for good, and that's just, and the thing is he just does it in his free time,
Right.
and that's what he does, and so he
Your
has
dad
all
is
the most interesting stories.
The coolest kind.
Your
I love
dad
your
is the coolest and also
kind of the most
so
scary.
lovely, the scariest. Because I've never seen him angry. I've never seen him any type of hostile.
That's
Hey.
why would you even fucking try to do that? Okay.
Dairy
Casual
Queen?
flex, but
Casual
that's
flex, but
casual flex.
okay, Nick.
Okay, Nick. But also, that terrifies me. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead,
Oh, yeah.
Callie.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
saying about.
But your dad has always been just the kindest, old dad to
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because 100% it's because we were friends, and I feel like he saw me enough
Yeah.
that he was like, okay, this is one of Cass's friends.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be around a while.
No, he loves you to death, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you know, the other person that we hung out with usually, he was like, nah, fuck her. He was not a fan of her, but he's like, but Allie,
I am.
she is God's
Okay.
gift to Earth.
No, fuck him also. Because one day we were all walking in heels, and he was like, oh, this other person can walk like a pro, and you need a little help, Allie. And I was like, oh, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
That's how.
I walk in heels like a magician or a porn star, whichever applies. You son of a bitch.
Didn't Bella get a new kitten, right?
They got a new
kitten?
dog.
They got a
And
new
a
dog.
dog.
Yeah, Morgan.
Morgan. That's
Did they
Jason
say
and
something?
Kathy's.
Wait, look how cute they.
Oh, that's adorable.
Did they get another cat? Or is it
No, they didn't get a new
I
cat,
was
but they
about
got
to
a
say.
new dog named Morgan. She's like a
like I
chocolate
knew
lab.
that. He's because she
Adorable.
looks a lot like Recon.
Yeah.
She is Recon, but
Yeah.
like Morgan. Anyways.
Hey, Wes. I sure do pumpkin jambalaya.
Oh Lord, that one was a
Ugh.
rough incident.
Are we? Wait. Oh,
You guys seen that clip?
I've seen that clip.
I
I think you've seen that clip.
have
I don't
I?
think I have.
It's a forest, like, you know, where he like and then like, you know,
I'll show
and
you.
then just throws up.
This was on
I
stream.
haven't.
I've seen this so many times that
It's
I'm like, I
classic.
knew exactly what you said. I knew.
Whoever titled it just like,
Pumpkin jambalaya.
because that's what it looks like, and it makes me sick.
It's pretty
Wait,
nasty.
he threw up on you?
No, he
no.
threw up just on like the chair, but it looked like pumpkin jambalaya.
I remember that video because that was before I even knew Wes and Forrest, and it was kind of like when
Yeah.
we were starting to do the podcast. I remember watching that clip. I watched it 8 times because I thought it was so funny. Because didn't he like throw up in his hand?
It was kind of like he just kind of would, and it was just like right. It was kind of on his arm as well.
Well, it was just because of the conversation too. Because I was talking to the guest, who, by fact, it was his first time he's ever met either of us in
Oh
person.
no! So you were like, well,
This is Forrest.
let me find. I got
Oh.
a notification on Facebook, and it was the first time that I was ever on this podcast. Not this podcast specifically, but just kind of like Top Shelfers. And I was like, that's so precious. What the heck? Let me see if I can find it.
Okay, but
Going back to the book now. I
There it
want to.
is.
Oh, in 2018. There we go, May 14th, 2018.
May 1st.
pumpkin jambalaya.
Pumpkin jambalaya. Yeah, watch Forrest right there drinking.
Wow, Forrest is a lot tinier than I gave him credit for. I figured he'd be a bigger person.
I remember.
I
He
love that you guys are just
immediately
like,
smiles.
Just watching like what the.
I just
What
love
is
his
happening?
little casual smile because he looks at both of us because you can kind of hear it.
and then you see him go.
Because it's almost like he wasn't prepared for it. He was
And
coughing.
you even see him go like,
Because I was asking that kid, he was talking about like he's quit smoking weed, and I was like, oh, so why? What made you do that? And he was like,
yeah.
oh, life choice. And then he throws up, and that kid's like, oh my.
Oh my.
Shout out Saxon. Hope you're doing well, my guy.
Shouts out.
Shouts out.
Shouts out.
Well, then there's this fucking classic.
A little kiss.
A little kiss on
Kiss
stream.
begins with K. I'm sorry.
I also forcibly got kissed on here too by Chandler, but
That's beautiful.
they were arguing. I was like, "Guys need to make up," and then they just.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Well, because there was a running inside joke where I don't remember it because this was during drinking days. But,
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Forrest or Chandler kissed each other at like a party once, like, and then the whole thing was like, no, you kiss me, no, or you kiss me, back and forth.
Yeah.
So it got brought up again, and they did that, and they both went 50-50. I rewatched
They
it.
both went
And
right in.
I was just like, oh my god, not again.
Not again. No.
Okay, but wait.
Yeah, let's get back to the book.
Oh yeah, book.
We are. Oh, I hate to say this because there are 17 characters, but we are on the 4th character in the book.
I'm so sorry, people.
Oh my god. We can kind of like go through a little bit.
Yeah, we
fast.
can like
Exactly.
speed. Let's speed through.
Yeah, there's Lady Bag Lady,
Oh.
which is all about the rich trying to be poor
Yeah.
because that's the current trend.
Like it's cool.
And I think that's a lot to be said for, like, example, ripped jeans. That became the
Yeah.
cool, rich look, and the whole punk movement, which I will try not to go into it, but punk is very elitist,
Yeah.
which is very
Hypocritical.
hypocritical. It's not against what they believe, but they are very elitist, which honestly it makes sense with all of the like I don't want to say fake and I don't want to say phony, but there are a lot of people who are taking that style into their own without actually researching the punk ideologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
and it's the same thing with like the quote unquote big titty goth girlfriend. How
Yes.
many is it just an aesthetic that they like how they look versus are they
Exactly.
actually
Actually
goth?
goth. Yeah.
And the punk movement was wholly an aesthetic that perpetrated their ideologically, their decision to rebel, and that has evolved. Even fuck you, whoever is watching that's about to be like, oh no, that's bullshit. No, a lot of the hardcore punks are just about the aesthetic. And
Yeah.
a lot of the hardcore punks are just like, yeah, no, I'm punk, without actually believing in the ideologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying too. Like
They're
it's
anarchy.
Yeah, they're like anarchy, but you're also a rich brat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, sure, buddy. Like, you just don't, like, you know, obviously you want the aesthetic and everything, but, like, you've never actually faced necessarily, like, the injustice that causes people to have that, like, ideal.
And that's also such tie-in to the
The
very
victimized
theme of
Yeah!
the book, victimization, because this book is everywhere in society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not surprised nor upset the way that our conversation has
Oh, no,
gone.
'cause
because
everything's
in
a bad
everything.
thing.
Really,
Yeah.
like,
But yeah,
centered
the
to
bag
this
lady
book.
thing was just to quickly summarize it. She was rich and wealthy, and they pretty much were bored and decided to go be homeless and to give them like something to do almost.
Yeah, one of their friends was having sex with her husband on the street as homeless people, and they saw that as a solution to solve their
Yeah.
boredom.
Yeah.
Because
So
of their
they
richness.
pretended to be homeless, and they went all out. Don't get me wrong. They did the whole, like,
Yeah.
dirty rags, dumpster diving, pissed on clothes.
They fit the image to try and fit in, but the reality was just they were fake,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is prevalent everywhere in society.
everywhere. And then her husband got murdered because they accidentally witnessed a murder happening with a wealthy heiress.
And people were looking for them because they know that they saw, like, these homeless people see the murder, and they were like, we gotta find them. And then secretly they're, like, these rich, well-known, popular people, and they're like,
Exactly.
shit.
And to add to the overall story, her husband got murdered, which led her to become a veritable hermit. She never left her house or did anything outdoors because she was terrified of people killing her, which is kind of the reason of the writer's retreat. Honestly, Lady Bag Lady is possibly my favorite of the victims
Yeah.
because she never went that extreme.
Yeah.
She just
Yeah.
She had a moment. She wrote her piece, and then she realized how entitled and bullshit that was, and then she killed herself, which I believe. But she had that moment, and not that killing yourself is any way a good thing or any way justifying your actions, but she took into account her actions before suicide, and she made peace with everything.
Which I think also, like, the whole, because the in-between story of, like, tying it all together, they called, like, everything that's, like, you know, fixing the furnace, because they try to break everything and, like, throw out all the food so then they can be victims and make it more shitty for themselves. They always mention that a ghost is, like, fixing things for them and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, the ghost has killed this person, and you're just kind of like...
Which is, like, the last lines of the book is, like...
Camera behind the camera, behind the camera.
Yeah.
Which is also a prevalent story in how she kills herself. But everyone there is just the camera behind the camera behind the camera. Mm-hmm. They're all witnessing and recording through their eyes. Through, I want to say, Tattletale's camera.
I think it's Tattletale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through Tattletale's camera, that scene where they can print, where they can show off how exactly they've been traumatized, because the overall story is they make themselves the victims of their circumstance when there isn't actually that traumatic circumstance, because Mr. Whittier isn't starving them. He isn't cutting them. He isn't mutilating them.
Can we talk about the fact that, like, I mean, at the end, it shook me when, like, obviously, Mr. Whittier was alive. Like, spoiler alert, Mr. Whittier was alive the entire time.
Right.
And watching them the whole entire time. And then you realize that Mrs. Clark, like, her daughter, did it all. And the thing is he did this multiple times. And this is something that he just does. I saw this Reddit account, and I was, like, reading about it and how, like, he basically is just doing this to prove that, like, an afterlife exists, because the whole suffering here on Earth is supposed to, like, represent...
Well, yeah, because it was the Venus thing. Like,
the whole Venus.
I honestly believe... Don't get me wrong, afterlife is whatever.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe in one, but if there is one, that's cool.
That's dope.
Let's see how I fare out.
Funsies.
Yeah.
But I think, personally, that Mr. Whittier wasn't necessarily doing this as a suffering act. He was more doing this as an experimental act.
Yeah.
Which is actually stated by Chuck Palahniuk in the very beginning. He relates them to lab rats.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all just some grand experiment.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, and it's never mentioned again.
Until,
it's
like,
just a little Easter egg for someone who's read the books more than once.
Yeah.
But it's all an experiment on how much humans make themselves suffer, and how much that he didn't contribute to the lack of food, to the lack of laundry, to the lack of housing, and how much that people just want to get famous.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Lady Bag Lady especially, there's a theme to how much those who have plenty, food, money, wealth, all of that, how much they idealize the poor, the hungry, the homeless, and how much they just see them as free.
Right.
And I think that's a prevalent story in the book underneath the victimization.
Right. it's. I never thought about that with this reading the book, because and everyone says that in reality too. Like when you have everything, it's less purpose.
And no one believes it because, hear me out, I know it, but I don't believe it because I feel like if I have money, I could do anything. But also, if I have money,
What's the point?
fully believe I would want to make more money just to create a security net.
Yeah, because I think that's what a lot of people criticize people that are like either poor or they don't have a lot of money is like people like Hurricane Katrina. People were getting checks, like they were living in like shelters, and they were able to live there up until they can get their own place. But they were getting these checks from the state to like help pay for it, and they would just blow it all on like TVs, video games, things that they can have, because it's like when you don't have a lot and you get a lot of money, you don't think about security for the big picture. You're like, this is the things I want now. I'm going to get them now because I know I'm not going to get them again. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, and they like criticize people who spend their money, or like I mean, there is an extent where like people who are on unemployment who don't deserve to be on unemployment because they're just lazy. There is a difference, but then at the same time I get it too, because like if you don't have a lot and you get this free money, you're going to spend it on something you couldn't have gotten before. And that's where it's like I get that, because it's like now like when I worked at the bakery compared to my job now, I'm making almost double. Not quite, but pretty damn close to double. But like at the bakery, I was always like, I wish I had more time off, or I wish I had more this or miss that. But now that I have almost double the money, I'm still like, oh, I wish I had more time off, I wish I had this, but I'm like, I still have that mindset of like, I need to keep making more. And I know if I lost like my job and I had to basically start back to where I was at the bakery, it would be super hard for me, because then it's like, well, I'm just starting back to where I was, but like then I'll always still have that mindset of I need to make more and more and more and more.
Right.
Dr. Pepper.
I may or may not
Or
have drank the last
anything.
Dr. Pepper can, but
I thought I had some.
Is there anything to mix with this?
This still has vodka in it, but I mean,
Okay.
give it a good.
We will suffer together.
Okay, you know what? This is fair. This is like the time
Fair
that
is fair.
I think there's a Kanye West line, which Kanye West now is, I don't want to talk about it, but old Kanye used to rap some pretty important things. But
yeah.
I think he said, having money isn't everything, but not having it is. Like, I think that goes with the whole entire, oh, Lord. That wasn't a good response to that.
I like how we're like switching around these cups.
Oh, that's bad.
We suffer together.
I mean, okay, hold on. I guess I have, it's like a tiger's blood power drink. Like,
We will.
I would sip it first before you try and like.
Mix it.
I'm
I would
sorry,
mix
my
it.
hair is on. My hair gets everywhere. My
'Cause I
hair
don't
gets
think
in
that
their
will
ass
mix well
cracks
with
more than it gets in
anything.
mine.
It might be better than just straight vodka.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I was like, when she was like, we'll suffer together, this reminds me of every single time that, so whenever Allie and I get like drunk together and we go and walk outside, Allie is, she's like peeing in nature is a very
I pee so many places. Awesome. You're welcome. Okay, I have peed on the state capitol. I have peed on many a churches. I have
welcome.
peed off a 3-story tower. You're welcome.
We peed in a bulldozer. That's what we did.
That is true.
We did that when we were white. There was a lot of construction on
In the Gilmore
in
area?
Sugar House, you know, kind of like that one street that had a bunch of construction, and it was like really, really late, and we were definitely drunk. And the thing is I don't pee outside unless Allie goes, "I'm gonna pee. You're gonna pee with me, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Because, you know,
Here's
ride or
the
die.
thing, you can always say no, but you never say
I
no.
never say
And
no.
I appreciate
you
that
know,
so much.
Because I remember the first time that we did, she was like, it's an experience that we need to experience together. And I was like, you know what? This is a fact. Let's do this. And so then there was later on, after that first time, obviously, we've done it multiple times, we were walking down the street, both had to pee. There was this bulldozer that had the thing, and she was like, this is a perfect place to pee. And I was like, agreed.
Agreed.
And then we just both, like, we literally just peed there on, like, right there into this bulldozer.
Hey, I respect it.
And it was like, you were like, basically, you were like, you know what, if we gotta pee together. And I was like, straight
Okay,
big
but
facts.
I have peed off a fence with a good friend of mine.
You've peed out of a car, like a moving car before, right?
I have, yes. I'm very good. I've peed out of a moving car multiple times. I know the situation, the speed. I have drove in a car as one of my friends has peed. I know the exact circumstances that are optimal to not peeing on the car and not being caught.
That's impressive, because coming from me, that seems more difficult to not pee on the car.
Yeah, and the thing is we are women. We have...
Yeah, okay.
I can direct. Like,
Yeah, you can drive. We have to,
Also-
like, angle.
Here's the thing. Out of a moving car, love you, men. Fuck you, men! Finally, we have a place to pee that's easier to pee as a woman than as a man.
out
Yeah,
of a moving
fuck you,
car.
men, with the fucking shiwi, which is
Oh,
unreliable.
I got a shiwi for so we have this annual Christmas party that we go to
Is
a
it she
cabin.
like a go girl?
Yeah, a go girl. That's what it is. We have basically this annual Christmas party at this cabin for about a weekend, and we always have like a white elephant where we get a bunch of weird things, and then all of us.
Pick one.
Let me feel the vibes.
I don't know how that's going to taste with the Coke or the Dr. Pepper in there as well.
You see,
It seems like a
I don't
bold
trust
strategy.
Ellie, but I trust her. You know?
It doesn't taste too bad. It kind of tastes like a car, generically.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want
it
to
has
taste?
the taste of a generic car.
It has the taste of a generic car. Oh, but basically, I got
Do
a
you kinda
shiwi
see it?
and a shot
not
glass
bad.
that said,
really
I'll
not
pee
bad.
next to
No.
you. And, sorry, I'm setting this. Oh, wait, we can't set it down, I realize, because it messes up the audio.
I so fucked up
I'm
with
sorry.
so many
We're
things.
this far in. It's
No,
fine.
literally, we've been doing this.
So I have to go soon.
Oh,
'cause,
yes.
It's 7-ish. What I want to finish on, and we can always do a part 2 of this. There's still a lot to discuss. But what do you guys think was in the black box?
Oh.
Okay, so honestly, I would rather not know. So, for those of you who have not read Haunted, there's a story with Tess Clark's daughter. And she gets all dolled up in the, like, teenage way with the fancy dress and the glamorous earrings in the teenage way. And there's this nightmare box, which goes off at a unprecedented, unreliable amount of time. Unexpected.
Yeah.
It ticks for however long it ticks, and no one can predict how long, and then it just suddenly shuts off. And it apparently shows an image for a half a second, I want to say. So, Tess Clark is at this art gallery, and this nightmare box is featured. So, Tess Clark's daughter gets picked for this. So, she looks in it. She sees this nightmare image. No idea what it is or what it stands for, but she sees it, and then she does not talk about it ever. She never talks about it, and then she immediately goes on this writer's retreat pre the book.
Yeah.
And tells
This
nobody
is-
that she's going on this retreat. Everyone thinks that she's been kidnapped or disappears, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So she goes on this writer's retreat. No one ever talks about it. And then Tess Clark, her daughter returns, but as not the same person she was. She returns, honestly, as the most healthy, stable human being.
In the whole book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Literally.
And Tess Clark killed her for it because she wants her unstable
Daughter back.
teenager daughter back.
She wanted all these horrible things to have happened to her when she was kidnapped because Tess Clark was like putting in her mind like she's getting like all this crazy shit's happening
Yeah.
to her, but then when she comes back and she is so now not interested in like popularity or high school stuff or anything like that, and didn't her daughter say something like what she saw in the nightmare box made her want to become a writer? Like, wasn't that?
Yes.
She was like, it made me want to write. One thing that actually, I think one of the biggest quotes that affected me in this book was from her daughter, because basically, she comes back and she's like mutilated.
Right.
And because they find her after this writer's retreat, which is exactly what happens to all the characters in the book, and they start mutilating themselves. But you don't realize that until later, that this has happened much before, and that's what you realize, that the daughter went through the same thing, and that's the whole reason Tess Clark is there, because she wants to figure out what happened to her daughter. But basically she comes back mutilated, and all these people, like all the police and all of that stuff, they're asking her, they're like, who did this to you? You can tell us, like, where is this coming from, all this stuff. And she like looks at her mom and she's like, you really think that I'd let anybody else do this to me
Right.
other than myself?
Yes.
And like the whole time is she's like, literally the mom's like, what do you mean? And like just chalks it up to like she's kind of crazy, it's the trauma, all that stuff. But she literally did all those things to herself, but
and
nobody actually realizes that.
And that's what I feel like Tess Clark is so an integral character to this book, because she's watching this all grow, but she never understands the true fact of her daughter victimizing herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like she lays her whole story out without ever truly growing as a character.
Right.
And that is why Tess Clark is so important of a character, because she shows how humanity sees all of this and never truly understands,
Right.
never truly wants to understand, and never truly grows.
Well, and I
Yeah.
also think it shows how humans are inherently intrigued in drama.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we want to admit it or not,
Yeah.
humans love drama.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, people can say they
Definitely.
live drama free or want to do it, but then we watch like Game of Thrones. Or
Yeah.
like,
And
And
we
we
just
want
love it.
to
How
have
many
it.
people are true crime
Oh yeah.
Junkie.
Oh, yeah.
junkies?
Or what, like I don't like drama in my personal life,
Yeah.
but I love, we have this one friend, I'm like, what's the tea, sis?
What's
and
the
she
tea?
What's the
tells
tea?
me everything about everybody, and I love knowing
just
it,
like,
and I hate myself the fact that I love knowing
Yeah.
everyone's drama.
And I feel like that's where the heroes, victims, and villains stereotype comes to play, because everyone loves a victim.
oh,
Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
everyone fucking loves a villain. Whether they want to admit it or not, they love to hate a victim, they love a victim, they just
more interest,
absorb the victim or the villain.
Yeah.
Well, I mean-
Sorry,
like-
villain. I meant to say villain.
I mean,
I'm a little
honestly-
drunk right now. But they love the villain more than anything else in this story, because name one of Ted Bundy's victims. Name one!
I was about to say, what, Deborah Clark? Is that Deborah?
Deborah Clark?
Yeah.
Deborah Clark?
That's
Deborah
the
Clark.
one my family knows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one
so-
from Utah, though.
That
And
is
so we
what
specifically
everyone
know
That's
them.
one out of how many?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, we could.
Because we love the villain
Specifically Ted
more
Bundy.
than anything else. And that's
Oh.
what I feel like
Yeah, no, 100%.
the book accentuates
Yeah.
how the
Thank you,
'cause-
Thank you, chicken korma.
A. But Tess and Mr. Whittier, they both get more stories, because Mr. Whittier
more
gets
backstories.
2 backstories, and Tess gets 4.
Right.
She gets 4 backstories, and don't get me wrong, I fucking love every one of those, because they just show how much of a villain
Yeah.
and how much of a non-villain,
They
like,
are.
person she
Yeah.
is.
Well,
But
yeah.
they get more of a backstory than anyone else, and I feel like that's what the book shows.
Yeah.
That the villains, we love to hate awful people. We love when there are villains in the story. We love
There's no
the
story
villains.
if there's no villain.
I really
Exactly. And I feel like, I'm sorry.
no.
I feel like the villains are the main part of the story, and people pretend that the heroes are, but no. The villains get more credit than anyone else, and
Well-
people love to heroize the heroes, but it's the victims and the villains that get most credit,
Yeah.
Well,
and that's what this book shows.
I think that's really true too, because you can also see that a lot in superhero culture.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, we love Spider-Man, Superman, fuck
Yeah,
ever,
all
superhero.
that stuff. Yeah.
But
Fake fan.
like fake fans.
Fake
But
fan,
like,
fake fan.
has anyone like when you think of Batman, the first thing you think of, and you know so much more than Batman, is Joker and Harley
Well,
Quinn.
I think
True.
Villains. You
Villains.
You love hearing the villain stories so much more than the the heroes, because
Yeah.
the heroes are always like cliches, but they like the villains, you're like, why did they become a villain? And it's so much more relatable, because you're like, I understand, because in that situation I understand why. Like My Future Diaries.
Oh, dude, that is so anime. Straight up
And-
anime.
Honestly, that's the question I want to ask.
Yeah.
Are people predispositioned to be bad? And is that why we
Well-
glamorize the villains?
well, here's what I
Yeah.
think. So there are no heroes without villains. So villains create the narrative.
Yeah.
And heroes are reactive in nature. So, like, I look at it as villains, which, if we're talking about being proactive and reactive, usually proactive is a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Villains are the proactive, heroes are the reactive.
Yeah.
Heroes only show when there's a villain being
bad guy.
proactive.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why people can name 100 serial killers and not 5 doctors is because, like, the doctors are reactive to us needing care, where the villains are proactive in getting their name out there to do harm.
I think that's why, like, a whole ton of, like, I know that, like, specifically, like school shootings and stuff like that happen because, like, of the original, of what is it? The OG. It's not actually, like,
It's not the OG,
but, like,
but
it's the one that got
Columbine.
the most. Yeah, Columbine. It's the one that got
Columbine
the most
started
thing.
the attention to school shootings and bullying. That's
Yeah.
what brought upon all of the things, and that's why a lot of the heroism in that unfortunate event comes from, is because that's where, like, I feel like the hero villain is hard, because then you think of, like, the Columbine shooters. I'm not supporting them. I hope everyone.
I'm not
fucking
supporting.
I hope everyone fucking knows. I don't condone. Oh, hold on, sorry. I don't condone anything of the sort, but that's why, like, the Columbine shootings are so big, is because it's like, I get it, because it's like those kids were so badly bullied and hurt, and there's like they
It
just
kind
did
of goes
it,
back to the victimization.
the victimization, and so
Yeah.
it's like the thing is about heroes and villains. It's like villains becoming villains makes a lot of sense. You just said that, Oscar.
Well, I think, too, like, I think that villains are more prominent, too, because usually a villain has a reason
Yeah.
to start up, where
Yeah.
you don't have a reason to become a hero unless there's something to do.
They have, like, a whole, I mean, obviously kind of like a vendetta sort of thing in the first place. And, like,
You got the hiccups?
you got the hiccups?
I do.
can't-
100%.
You're, like, trying to, like, suppress them and, like,
I am,
really
and it's
listening
like
in.
making a weird sound.
I heard it and I was like, I looked around and then I saw you
And
kind
you're
of
like, and I'm like,
Okay, but yeah, I still I fucking got the hiccups. Fight me. But and here is honestly, yeah, that was another hiccup. It's gonna happen a couple times and I'm not
We're
gonna
just gonna have to roll
fucking
with
address
it.
it.
We're gonna have to roll with it.
Honestly, I feel like villains are more relatable to our
Yeah.
society, and that's something I should address to the entire human culture. Because why are victims more relatable? Because I feel like I'm a pragmatic, semi-skeptical view, but I feel like humans are... Shut up.
No, I'm
Fuck
sorry.
about
I'm
the hiccups.
sorry. The hiccups just keep getting.
I know. I fucking know.
Sorry.
But I feel like humans have been a bad touch to Mother Nature. And serial killers, bad doers, I feel like that's just fucking nature. And I feel like we need a fucking wake up call. Yeah. I hiccuped during fucking. You're fucking welcome. But I feel like human beings just have a bad naturalistic response,
Yeah.
and that we need a wake up call. And that's what this book shows. That human beings' response to situations is just to admit pity. Oh, pity. Yeah.
Admit pity. No, honestly, I would say that like the whole fact of victimization is like definitely the center of this entire book.
Right.
You know, and just because like obviously a majority of the stories are just about them victimizing themselves, including like the in between that like ties them all together is the fact that they like
Right.
utilize themselves to actually like make sure that they get the good story.
Okay, but also even in everyday society, people victimize themselves to create a better
Oh yeah, a better punchline.
punchline. And that's exactly what we have to fix to
Facts,
create
Bert.
a better future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we can't be seen as the victims or the heroes or the villains because we glorify the villains so much. Because notice in the book, Haunted, the villains get more story than anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah. Also, you should figure out what... I don't know who Holly's talking to on the phone, and I want to know. Because also, back to the point of drama, I want to know everything. That also goes back to the Nightmare book, because... Nightmare Box, because I literally, the entire time, I want to know what's in it so bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, I can guess what's in it, and, like, what I really want is that it's something that kind of, like, reflects, like, your true self sort of thing. Some sort of thing that really makes you, like, reflect specifically on yourself. But, I mean, you'll never actually know.
I think Bieber put it good, too. Like, she said, I don't think there's anything in the box. I think it's the anticipation.
I agree completely, Bieber, honestly. Because the whole anticipation of, like, they call it the Nightmare Box. They know that something's coming. And,
Right.
like, it fucked up people in the past. That they're all terrified. And then once you see it and it's basically nothing... That's when you're kind of like, wow, is that really what my life was about this
Right.
entire time? Just anticipating this nightmare box of this terrifying thing.
I love the quote, Julius Sneezer. That's one of my favorite movies.
Wait, what
Have you
is
seen that,
Julius Caesar?
Seven?
Seven?
If you've never seen Seven, go
I've
home
never
and watch
seen
it.
it. I should watch it.
Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and I can't remember the other guy. It's a murder mystery. It is so fucking good.
Oh,
But-
shit.
Let's close out the stream, you and
Oh,
I.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
we will talk about doing a second part to finish out this book.
Because it's so long, we only got halfway through the characters.
Yes, and we've been going for like 3 hours and some change.
I am so sorry, people, but I hope you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey's the other guy in it.
Oh.
It's great. So yeah, we will make sure you guys are on Twitter or following one of our Read Between the Wines pages on Instagram or Twitter itself. We'll be posting an update on what we're going to do next month. Either it's going to be a second part of this or going into a new book, which we will post. Outside of that, stay engaged. There will be more content coming from different variations of the
sources.
stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, Nick. I will message you tomorrow. I have some free time.
Hell yeah.
How'd you get those?
2 girls to live. And just to let you know, that has not happened.
Yeah.
But you can think that. That's all right.
Like
TikTok
Kung Fu
Cam.
Panda, to become a Dragon Master, you need to
You need to read a scroll, but the scroll is not. Literally!
Warrior, not master.
Because you guys seem awesome.
We'll definitely keep Mixer going. Like, Mixer will never stop, so.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep it going. Jeez. TikTok Cam 12.
Oh, you ruined your
Oh,
persona.
sir. We were so excited about your comments, but then now all of a sudden, not as excited.
All right, we'll go ahead. We're going to close it out. And we will, everyone who supported us tonight with like the subs and the bits and different things like that.
Thank you so
Much love.
much. Thank you so much.
And the sparks. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll be back very soon. Take it easy.
See you later.